We are here on the Four Horsemen. As usual, I never say this. You should subscribe to this channel if you would like more Four Horsemen. Also, you should go check out our other channel, which is Last Free Nation Culture, where we do a film show called Foreplay, where we watch 4 movies in a genre or by the same director or with starring the same actor, and then we move on to the next one. We are actually, it's a great time for you because this coming week we'll be starting our psychedelic horror arc.
Maybe not the arc to subscribe to.
Just jump in here. The water's nice and warm.
Just jump in here. You'll like it. You'll love it.
Maybe not the arc to subscribe to.
We're starting with
especially the end of the Void episode.
Put the movie on sight unseen.
We're starting with Jacob's Ladder, which is a nice, easy way to get into a difficult genre, and then ratcheting it to 11 with Enter the Void. So you guys can choose if you want to watch along with that. We just finished our sports arc, which may be more palatable to normies. But if you are not a normie and you want to watch weird psychedelic horror, now is the time to go subscribe to that channel.
I was actually surprised to learn Thorin has feelings during the sports arc. I love Rudy, mate.
Got to me.
What?
That's one of the few ones that gets to me, mate.
Yeah,
exactly.
Speaking of which, this is an aside. Sean Astin, who stars in Rudy, is now trying to be the president of SAG-AFTRA. So we were wondering what he was doing, and now he wants to be the president of the Actors Union.
For a minute there, I thought you were saying he was going to get into esports. I was like, no.
President of TSM.
Yeah, Hobbit gaming or something. No, come on. Don't.
So anyway, there we go,
right.
guys. Let's talk about another fun topic in esports before we dive into our main topic on this episode, which is going to be Riot opening esports betting, which happened a few weeks ago, but we haven't had time to address it yet on this show, and it is obviously a very important industry topic. But before we do that, it is, of course, July. Pride Month is over. And that means
did it even happen this year?
It barely was one.
Weird.
I must have missed it, guys. I must have missed it.
Well, it ties in directly to our topic of conversation today, which is the Esports World Cup has kicked off. Actually, it's kicked off already. Post Malone is there. Esports people are taking photos with Post Malone.
Why does it always sound like a Mad Lib, whatever the celeb invited? It just feels random at this point.
Well, I mean, I'm literally watching like Cristiano Ronaldo give advertisements for Esports World Cup. Absurd.
We got all the fucking unbelievable normie hot takes as well, because I saw
come on. Like sports, was it all that shit?
Yeah, it was Patrice Evra.
Sport.
It was Patrice Evra going.
Come on.
If you ask me, I think absolutely esports can be bigger than football. Esports will never be bigger than football.
What a mad take.
It will never. Not in our lifetime. Football will have to end first. So,
which I would actually welcome. I welcome the complete and total destruction of soccer, but perhaps many other people do.
Never happened, sadly. Nobody's going to do their best to do it, ironically. But,
I know. Yeah, true. Don't even get me started on this fucking World Club Cup bullshit that's been going on. It's like you've got teams fighting for a player break because there's so many games in the calendar.
The joke is, it is the Esports World Cup of football, Richard.
I know,
really
totally.
Forced it on everyone.
You literally
look at the prize money, though. It's the same shit.
Literally, I think it was like Palmeiras that were playing like Chelsea the other day, and they'd already played 70 games in their season, right? With all the cups and all that, right? It's like, yeah, wicked. Yeah, let's have more games then. Yeah, let's just football never ends. All the football, all the time. Let's also do it in unbelievably warm climates, and we have 2-hour storm breaks in the middle of a game. It's been an absolute fucking farce, like the whole thing. So, and it's such a very Saudi event. I mean, I've actually been collating all the things Saudi have fucked up since they've got involved with it. And it's like they have this like illusion of competency that just doesn't actually hold up. They pretty much they do ruin stuff. I mean, put it this way, the only people that think this World Club Cup is a good idea is obviously fucking FIFA, because they got $1 billion bribe. I don't know if you saw this, Monty. You'll love this. This is a very Saudi way of doing things. They wanted to sell the TV rights for the World Club Cup, and nobody could be asked. Nobody wanted them. In fact, ITV, a UK provider, which is like the commercial provider that runs ads, they bid £0 and said, "We'll show it, but we're not paying you for the privilege of showing it. You can work out some of the commercial rights deal." And anyway, then all of a sudden,
Twitch-esque in their own way there.
yeah, and all of a sudden, DAZN came in,
classic,
and they did $1 billion, right? And it turns out the reason they
I do appreciate the way they work the market. Go 0, $1 billion. I love it. I love how shameless they are. I love it.
And basically what happened was it was something like after Saudi had been announced getting the World Cup for real, which FIFA decides, Saudi invested $1 billion in DAZN, the PIF, and then DAZN just gave that $1 billion to FIFA. It's kind of like how fucking Cloud9 signed them Russians from that Norwegian talent agency that we all don't talk about. But anyway, yeah, I mean that's what's going on. So I mean, like,
or how Riot receives money to vet betting sponsors through Grid, which we will be talking about.
He's bringing it back. That's fair enough, buddy. Yeah, that's why. You've always been a superior
I'm just drawing parallels here. Okay, I'm drawing parallels.
What's important is it's all being done responsibly. That's the key word for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main thing. That is the main thing. It's very responsible amounts.
I just love the way that these people can never just take the bag and go, look, I'm a piece of shit. I'm taking the bag.
No,
but what can you do about it? They always have to go, and I'm a really great human for doing it. So why is that always the gaslighting angle?
What we found is this one time, us taking the bag in an unmitigated act of greed will actually have net benefits for all of society. Who knew? Who knew? Just this one time. That's how
it was the magic
work.
bag. Just this one time.
And notice what they've done again, Monty, for the millionth
Every
time.
bag is magic.
Is Riot doesn't just do things. Riot invent things, bro. They are now inventing responsible gambling for the esports teams, because think of the implication, Monty. If it was ever possible before, then they're pieces of shit for denying all their partners this revenue for all these years. So you have to, as usual, pretend like you've just fucking got the Gordian knot, like I've figured out how to do it. Get ready so I get money and you get money. It's like, you're so shameless, it's fucking crazy, Riot. It's so nuts.
Hey guys, if you're looking to upgrade your hardware setup, well, we've got a great offer for you here on the Four Horsemen. And of course, that's with our partner, Turtle Beach. So I happen to love the Cone 2 Air. They bought Roccat, if you guys remember the old League of Legends team that used to be sponsored by the hardware company. They bought the hardware company, and I always loved their Cone mouse. The Cone 2 Air is a great wireless mouse. And, of course, you probably know this, but Turtle Beach makes some of the best, if not the very best, gaming headsets on the market. They're Stealth 700 Gen 3 is absolutely magnificent. I use this all the time when I'm not making content. And the best part is it has 2 wireless USB transmitters, so you can plug one into your PC, one into your console, your Switch, your Xbox, your PS5, maybe your laptop in the other room, and all you have to do is push one button to switch between them, and that way you're not running around trying to change USB ports. It can also simultaneously connect to Bluetooth, which means you can be playing your PS5 while you're on a Discord call with your friends, and you can independently control the volume mix because there's a Bluetooth volume knob and a wireless volume knob. You can listen to an LFN podcast, listen to the Four Horsemen while you're playing your Xbox, whatever you like. This headset delivers also crystal clear sound. You don't have to believe me. You can literally just go listen to some reviews on YouTube or read some articles about how good the Stealth 700 Gen 3 is. It is universally praised by reviewers. It is a fantastic headset. And you guys can head to turtlebeach.com and use code HORSEMAN, singular, M-A-N, for 10% off your order. That's 10% off your order at turtlebeach.com with promo code HORSEMAN. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Get the ultimate immersive gaming experience with Turtle Beach today. All right, before we go into that, though, if you guys haven't subscribed to Richard's Substack yet, do that. He had an article about lies about the Esports World Cup. So one of the hilarious developments, by the way, is the Esports World Cup and the Saudis hired an Academy Award nominated documentarist?
Yeah, from Sony. They're part of the Sony Pictures outlets, yeah.
So a very legit documentarist to direct a 5-part documentary called Esports World Cup Level Up that is ridiculous propaganda.
By the way, and why call it Level Up? It's got nothing. That would be good for like a generic gaming thing, or maybe like a documentary about like RPGs or MMOs, or right. No one levels up in
there's
esports.
MOBAs.
Right?
MOBAs. No, they do. MOBAs.
You're a real competitor. You don't level up. Like, I mean, yeah, in a MOBA, yeah, all right, you do technically level up. But, like, by the way, how many MOBAs are actually at this event? It's like Dota, it's League, and it's that fucking Bang Bang one, right? that they play on a mobile phone. That's it.
Yeah.
The rest of the 22 events
That's
have
true.
nothing to do with leveling up. And chess, the sport where there is no leveling up except your brain, they're pretending that's an esport now. So Level Up was a terrible title for it. Like,
should just call it Night Moves.
Correct.
The chess.
I would, and I tell you what, Monty, I bet that documentarian wakes up every morning regretting that fact that he didn't call it Night Moves. I know I would have.
All right. So basically, there are a ton of lies in this, and we aren't going to go over the lies here because we already planned to do an entire episode about the lies. And Richard, I believe, is the only one who has seen this so far. I was waiting for all 5 parts to come out before I watched it.
They are out. Because it was deliberately designed to cover the entirety of Pride Month for some reason.
Oh, right. Okay.
They literally released this documentary series in June, and then all of the people that are taking money from the Esports World Cup stipend are all contractually obligated to
I just
tweet
like
about
the
it.
way. Why is Monty doing that thing where he's like, I like to wait for the whole season to be up to marathon it? Like, I don't know why is he doing that?
What was it, Thorin? What was the other choice? So I literally sit there and be like, I can't wait till next week when the new episode of Level Up comes out.
Definitely.
I like to rip the Band-Aid off all at once.
For context,
Not prolong the
By the way,
pain
I haven't
over
watched this
multiple
yet
weeks.
either because I'm waiting for us to do the episode. But I'm going to go ahead and immediately guess, Richard, especially by the name being fucking Level Up. Is it another classic example of a piece of media that isn't actually for any human that exists? Like, technically, you'd have to know something about esports to get any enjoyment. But
it is,
I'm going to guess it's
I'm going to
normie,
write a
right?
review of it, but it is absolute normie slop.
There you go, classic. I always think this, mate. If I don't want to watch it, I've committed my whole life. Who is this for? You know what I mean? Like,
let me tell you what every episode is, no matter the game. It's actually great. It's so formulaic in its approach, and you can understand why they've done it this way. Because obviously, like their original PR was life-changing money. That was the recurring phrase. Everyone was obligated to use that phrase. You had to call it life-changing money. It was in all the press release. All the orgs were tweeting, "Who wants to win some life-changing money?" All of this shit, right? And like the Homer Simpson's episode, did someone say a perfect game? And they're doing it like that, like crowbarring it in.
Love it.
And anyway, so every episode is the same in the sense that it focuses on a competitor. The competitor was poor, but now through the magic of esports, they made money and can have a living. And wouldn't you know, they're competing at the Esports World Cup, which provides life-changing money.
And they've been rival of Falcons, believe it or not.
Yeah,
in every game.
I mean, but I'll also add this, like, just to get back to the point about like how little they tweeted about Pride and how much they tweeted about this documentary being in existence. I wrote another article, which you guys, I know you don't have time to read all of my stuff, so I'm not that I write all that much anyway. You just don't read my stuff, and that's fine. We're friends. It's all good.
What I do,
I'm not
and I
upset.
literally said I read your article.
No, but this is another article that we haven't even referenced here. It was called "All Quiet on the Rainbow Front."
I read that one too.
Oh, okay, right. Well, anyway, I'll just read you a few sentences from that, and it says here, right?
Richard's still going hard as fuck on the titles as usual. Of course.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it's right. Let's look at some examples of orgs that you would usually tweet about Pride Month. Cloud9 is North America's largest esports organization. They used to never miss an opportunity.
Seen that logo as a rainbow a million times, mate, a million times.
All right. And I've linked to all the times they used to do it. This June, they decided not to, but their main account did manage to tweet a total of 20 times about the Esports World Cup. For what it's worth, they tweeted more about Father's Day this June than they did about Pride Month. Or what about Fnatic in Europe, another organization that has talked a good
was
game.
it about leather daddies for Father's Day?
Sadly not. No leather daddies in sight, which mercifully for Thorin. But anyway, even having a diversity and inclusion page on their official website. There, they state that Fnatic is a long-standing supporter of the LGBT plus gaming community, but with such strong committed beliefs, you would have imagined they would have been very vocal for this year's Pride, except there's nothing there, even as they managed to tweet about the Esports World Cup 15 times in June. Similarly, you can have a laugh at Vitality, whose last tweet about Pride or LGBT causes, the year is significant, guys, was in 2022, where they proclaimed this is the right time to acknowledge that people are still discriminated for their gender identity and sexual orientation. It sure was, because the following year they were in attendance at Riyadh's Gamers 8 festival and have gone on to become one of the Esports World Cup's most faithful servants.
But Richard, you have to understand that was the time to do it, and now the time is over.
Correct.
Right?
No,
They hit the peak, and so it's all better now.
It literally
Don't
was
worry
the
about
time
it.
to do it. The time you could raise money from American fucking markets, because they were like, wow, look at all these inclusive gaming organizations really standing up for people. And then it's like, there's no money to be raised there anymore. And actually, this bag is bigger anyway. So sorry, gays, sorry, trans people, fuck you. We're taking the Saudi money now. I just wish they would have tweeted that. This pride, we want to say, fuck
which, if you remember, the premise we were
you
sold,
may as well have done,
which was obviously disingenuous, was that somehow by us as a Western group taking money from the Saudis, we would then dictate to them the terms of the culture that we've all entered into. But instead, this action almost makes it seem like it's the other way around, and they're dictating our culture.
I genuinely thought this one financial transaction would be the time where the person with all of the money would change their behavior. I thought it was going to work this time, guys. I don't know. Once again.
Who knew it? Actually, the person who collects the money off the dresser at the end of the night has to do what the person providing the money, say, maybe call them a John of some kind.
What are you guys talking about?
They have to do what they ask.
The Saudis were paying the esports teams for education, right? It was an education in gay rights.
Yeah, true.
That's how it works.
It's been very educational how transitory and ephemeral those rights appear to be in the eyes of the owners of esports organizations. So, very cool. But anyway, back to the documentary. The documentary is absolute slop. I mean, words cannot express how fucking poor it is. Like it is so surface level, and it's just filled with lies and propaganda. What's also interesting about it is it doesn't just propagandize the World Cup, it propagandizes the Falcons organization.
Right.
It makes them sound like what they're doing is some sort of incredible, complex, like scouting operation.
That's so
to get all the
strange
best
because
talent.
I thought they weren't owned by the same Saudi government that owns the Esports World Cup.
No.
So why would they have an interest in doing that in this documentary paid for by
just
the
friendly
Esports World Cup?
investors that wish to remain anonymous, Monty, because why wouldn't they?
And compete in a tournament with no conflict of interest whatsoever, right?
None at all. I mean, by the way, they're all taking money from the people that run the organizations. I mean, like, it's a layer cake of conflict of interest, essentially. But I mean, like, look, I don't want to tell people to go and watch it because it obviously there's a metric there. That they'll be able to point to and say this got X amount of clicks, and they'll put a press release out if the number sounds impressive enough. I'm sure they will at some point anyway. They'll fudge some number. But just for context, on Amazon, right, I was looking in Prime, because it's a Prime Video release. They've obviously done a deal with Amazon to distribute it. And I couldn't find it. I was scanning through all of the Prime shows. I specifically type Esports World Cup level up to get to it, where an autocomplete kicked in. It was like Esports World Cup documentary or something. And I watched the episodes, and then I went to go back to get some quotes, and it didn't even recommend it to me, and it wasn't even in my watched items. Like, what? Like Amazon know this is trash. Like they can't be asked.
Well, here's what happens when you get on these streaming platforms, Richard. So you need distribution, right? And so
I'll be back in 1 second. Keep going.
What almost certainly happened is that they needed to distribute this somewhere. They probably, if I had to guess, Richard, they probably tried Netflix first and failed to get it on Netflix. And it's just
Which is
how
crazy
Riot,
when you look at some of the documentaries on Netflix and how low the threshold must be. Like,
that's true.
My 2-inch wide arsehole or something is like just on there, and then fucking Esports World Cup can't get on there. Like,
so what happened with Arcane, Richard, too, is that Riot. Netflix didn't pay for Arcane, right? Riot did get some money, particularly in season 2, per episode of Arcane. And Arcane was a massive success for Netflix. So obviously, I'm sure Netflix is going to change their tune when it comes to future Riot products. But really, it was about the reach and distribution. And that's what people care about. And so certain people like Riot will take a fat L on getting Arcane onto Netflix because it ensures distribution. It was hugely successful.
Yep.
In this case, I imagine what happened is that Esports World Cup paid for the entire creation of this documentary and then went to the streaming services and said, hey, will you put this on our platform? Maybe they even offered to pay other people to put on their platform. Because remember, they have no distribution method outside of YouTube. And it's important for the prestige and the PR for them to be on a big streaming service.
The press release makes it sound like the documentary maker, RJ Cutler, who did like the Billie Eilish documentary and like Elton John documentary, you know, like just, you can imagine the type of content this comes out as if you look at his previous work. And so they make it sound like RJ Cutler was just so compelled to buy the story of the Esports World Cup, he decided to make a documentary series about it. But what gives the game away is in the title sequence at the end. It says all rights reserved, Esports World Cup Foundation or whatever. So it's like they just essentially paid to have this made. And you know, it's just advertising. That's all.
Right, and because this guy and his production team didn't know anything about this, they were gonna eat whatever the Esports World Cup told them were the real stories, hook, line, and sinker, and they clearly didn't talk to anybody else or do any other research.
I mean, I will say this, and just in case any of our industry friends that appeared in this watch this, I know what it's like, right? Like, there's a lot of people we know from like friends of the show and just friends of ours in real life and people we worked with. There's a lot of them that have just they're there and they're basically like these talking heads. They do the vox pop type thing, and it's like I've done those and I know what it's like. They interview you for 6 hours and then they use the most generic
seconds.
Yeah, they take the 30 seconds of the most generic thing, which you say right at the start. And then you talk for 5 hours more and they don't do it. So like Katie Bedford's in it, like Rachel Seltzer's in it, OJ Borger's in it, you know, and it's like these are obviously Quick Shot narrates the whole fucking thing, and it's like they're good people, you know, like they're good. I'm not saying anything bad about them. I've got no beef with them appearing in it. It's obviously they've been paid for their time, right? Fair enough, yeah. But I mean, you know, the documentary is garbage. It's garbage. It doesn't leverage any of their expertise, essentially. You know, you get Katie Bedford, right, who's been working Call of Duty events for fucking, you know, years and years and years. And she goes, Call of Duty is this game where you shoot and no. And it's like, you know, that's it. That's for the normie. The target for this ultimately isn't the esports audience. The target is anybody that might be reticent or squeamish about Saudi Arabia taking over your thing that you love. Look what we've done here in esports. We're great. Look at all these poor people we've given money to in some sort of weird act of benevolence because we're just so great. So that's kind of the tenor of the show, you know, and obviously as well, narratively it's hilarious because Falcons win it at a canter, almost as if they were designed to. Now, try not to think too hard about the fact there's 22 events. Falcons entered 18 of those 22 events, and I think the next best team was like Vitality, who entered in 13, or it might have been Team Liquid. I believe, and I couldn't prove this, but I believe if you play in the Esports World Cup, you can't enter all of the events, or certainly not more than Falcons, right? I don't think you would be allowed to. But anyway, the disparity in the points, because Falcons won by like 2,000 points, right? And you know, it wasn't even close.
They had more than twice of second, which I think was Team Liquid. I remember it was something like that.
Yeah, right. But here's the thing: they still only won 2 out of 22 events, and yet they're there at the end with the best org in the world.
I think probably, Richard, the real cap is I don't think they're going around telling teams they can't enter as many competitions. I think there's a cap on the funding that Esports World Cup gives the teams.
Yeah, they do it via that.
So they would force the teams to spend their own money, whereas Falcons just can spend an infinite amount of money because it's coming obviously from the Saudi government.
Yeah.
So I think that they aren't. My guess, I know nothing, but my guess is it's not explicit. My guess is that they say, hey, we'll give you funding for X number of teams in X number of games, and that'll be it. And then you don't get any more money after that.
Yeah.
If you're a partner team.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this, like the first episode isn't that bad. It's really held up by the fact that Soka, who plays for Team Falcons, is a Warzone player. He's really endearing and charismatic and relatable, right? And it's like the first episode is kind of okay. Like, not really, but like compared to the rest of the series, it's the high watermark. And it starts with a diatribe where it's like, I mean, listen, I won't bang on people like OJ Borg or Katie Bedford. Khan literally sat there and pretended like this was like the first time there'd ever been an org-on-org esport. tournament. And I'm like, we did CGS in 2006, motherfucker. You were playing 1.6 competitively then, talking about how CGS was bad because fucking Source was the game they chose. So I know you know it exists. Like, I know you know it happened, but we just got to gloss past it. It's like, you fucking can't. You're now a co-owner in Fnatic. You put your own money in, for fuck's sake, and you're going to sit there and go, it is a milestone in esports. I agree. It's the first time a tyrannical government has fucking underwrote the whole fucking industry before. Yeah, it's great. So anyway, I mean, just to say the documentary.
You say that, but do you call out America? And
I know. Do you call out that?
By the way, it's why I did
Trump
that tweet
in 2016.
I noticed for you, this was fucking chum to the shark, fucking catnip for you, Monty. When I pointed out that actually there are 3 pillars that are impossible to understand for the moron. There is the conflict of interest. Oh my God! There is sports
But they didn't
washing.
do anything.
But wait a minute, you aren't calling out China as just a private Chinese company runs the tournament. And then what's the third one as well? The third one's
double elimination.
But wait a minute,
no bracket
Monty,
reset.
The team from the upper bracket, they did not lose twice. This is a fraud. This is fraud. Somehow those 3
it was like the ultimate trigger Monty
They not
list.
only can't understand those 3, but they're so convinced they actually understand it properly and we don't understand it. That's the most triggering part, Monty. Like, these 3 things you'll never get past it. It's impossible.
But it's not fair that the other team got to lose. I'm like, kill me.
Yeah. I mean, look, you are right. Those are 3 solid pillars of Moronism, and there's probably another 2 we could add on, but let's not. But the documentary is essentially a propaganda exercise and very little else. It's designed to make the normies believe the Esports World Cup is the only show in town, that prior to the existence of the Esports World Cup, everybody wasn't making life-changing money. I mean, this is the other funny part to it, right? The Las Vegas competition in Call of Duty Warzone, before the one that they had in the Esports World Cup, had a $950,000 prize pool. They had a $1 million prize pool in Riyadh, and they go, that's life-changing money.
Nobody mentioned TI and how much the prize pool for one game.
Here's the funniest part about that, right? Just in Warzone, the winner of the tournament in Riyadh, the winning team, gets $200,000, but the winning team in Vegas got $300,000. So there's $100,000 more life-changing dollars, as far as I can see, in that one. But they just gloss over it. They don't talk about it. They don't talk about how they're bankrolling all the teams. Nobody mentions that once. There's nothing like that. And it's just like, it's literally held up to say, isn't this Saudi Arabian Esports World Cup thing good?
Today's episode of The Four Horsemen is brought to you by Ridge. Now, if you've been carrying a fat leather wallet that is fraying in your pocket for years, now may be time to upgrade to a nice Ridge wallet. This one here is mine. It's made out of carbon fiber, so it's virtually indestructible. It has a money clip on the back, and you can actually just pop out your cards by pushing into this tab, and it can hold up to 12 cards. Credit cards, debit cards, your driver's license, any other form of ID you have. It will keep it very secure, plus super thin. So you don't have to worry about it bulging in your pocket anymore. It is a very nice bonus. It's nice and sleek, nice and classy for you guys. So it's something I've been using a lot and really enjoyed. Makes it much less bulky to carry your money around. Plus, there's a lot of different designs. They have over 50 colors and styles to choose from. They've got aluminum, titanium, carbon fiber, whatever finish you want. These things are all indestructible. They also all have a lifetime warranty, so you never need to worry about getting a wallet again. It can also have it also has RFID blocking technology, so you don't have to worry about your cards being scanned. Lots of great reasons to pick up a Ridge. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off anything at Ridge, wallets, key holders, anything you like, by using code HORSEMAN. That's HORSEMAN, Horseman, singular, at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use code HORSEMAN, and you're all set. After purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please tell us we here at the Four Horsemen sent you. Thank you very much.
And I'll do the segue for us. Team Liquid have been... Right. There's basically... Okay, let me just set the table for everyone that might not be following what's going on politically in esports right now. Imagine the Saudi Arabian state as Sauron. We'll keep it Lord of the Rings. We do love Lord of the Rings, right? Now, Sauron needs his Nazgul, right? And they need to go out...
Quite fitting in some senses. Freudian slip there. So
you see where I'm going? Yeah, correct. So he needs his Nazgul. And so what they've done is they have gone out to, in this case, it's the Elven Rings, I would say. They have gone out to Liquid, to Na'Vi, and to Vitality. And those three organizations are basically, they've put the rings on, they've become totally evil, totally corrupted, and they are out there essentially proselytizing for why Saudi Arabian money is good and necessary, and esports couldn't exist.
We must
without
join
it.
with Sauron.
Yeah, exactly.
Gandalf.
What do you want us to do? Not exist? Downsize? Exactly. What do you want? Like, no, we have to be this. So that's what they're doing, and this is what's happened in Counter-Strike in particular, but it's happening across the board. They are the organizations that are they were the ones that pushed to get money paid. They're like, we won't come to your tournaments unless you start paying us appearance fees again. And they were the ones that essentially pushed this. They believe they have to get, if there's more prize money coming in and you won't let us franchise, they're the ones driving it. And they're the ones that are driving the Esports World Cup. And obviously that's especially ridiculous when you consider that the co-CEO of Team Liquid, Steve Ardenset, is a gay man. And we can say that now. For years, he wasn't out publicly. And there was even a drama in the scene where somebody mentioned he was gay, because it's not like Steve's going around trying to...
In the industry, it was known.
In the industry,
it was well known. We all knew.
No, but I mean, like, and by the way, that sounds like there's a connotation there. So just to be clear, we know because Steve would talk about it openly, right?
Yeah. It wasn't like he wasn't closed off about it. In the industry, and everybody was very respectful towards his decision about not mentioning it publicly for obvious reasons.
Put it this way: when it comes to journalistic ethics, one thing you absolutely never ever do. It's why I hated the tawdry rag that was Gorka and celebrated its death. You never out people. You never out people because you don't know what the impact is going to be, in their lives.
And also, it's not relevant to the industry in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, there was the journalist in question had the issue like an apology and a retraction. They deleted the article and any tweets. And we all sat on that and we went, that was a bit of a hairy one. You know what I mean? Fucking accidentally outing somebody. And then, well, wouldn't you know it, Steve decided just about the exact same time people were criticizing Team Liquid for having this deal with the devil, so to speak. He decided he would come out to use it as a shield. And people get squeamish about this, but ultimately, to be out and proud for Saudi is ridiculous. I mean, it is. It after years,
it's also exactly what they want.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah. That it is. It makes you the textbook useful idiot.
And also, if you have yourself in the past chosen to speak about topics that relate to sexuality in your own country,
which he has,
but without disclosing that information, because by the way, you never had to at the time, but this makes it look like you say, Rich, like it's cynical that you did it now, though, because if anything, if you wanted to make a powerful political message and you'd be making it about America, you could have said it then, couldn't you? That would actually, in some sense, it wouldn't have been a better moment to say it in some ways to have an effect that you want. It sounds like you say, you're just doing it as like a weird smokescreen for the Saudi angle.
Yeah,
well, just seems a bit sinister,
And so we get to the punchline of that particular joke, and so this is where I'll tag you in, Monty. This is you. You run with it.
Basically, what has happened, guys, and shout out to
Mikhail Klementov.
The people who you have Mikhail Klementov. He is Reader Grev on Twitter. Leader
He's Leader Grev on Twitter, but his Substack
is Reader Grev. Yeah, sorry. So he has a Substack where he actually does break some important stories. And he had contacts in Saudi Arabia who were viewing Level Up, the documentary, from Saudi Arabia. So when you are geolocated in Saudi Arabia, what will happen is that you are served up a different version of
Crazy.
the documentary.
Right.
And his reporting, which you can read at readergrev, GREV.com, and we'll link the article below as well, basically censored the content. So what happened is Steve from Team Liquid was apparently telling stories about him being gay and in esports. And also there were images of Team Liquid with the rainbow flag that they wore on their jerseys to the Esports World Cup. And Team Liquid made a big deal of this, saying, oh yeah, we're not being censored. We're going to wear our rainbow flag jerseys to the Esports World Cup. And the result of this is that in the version of the documentary that is fed to people in Saudi Arabia, what happens is that content, the interviews with Steve, have been removed, and the rainbow flag is censored. It is blurred out in the footage. So I
love the idea they're going so far. They're on some like Marvel will do it in post scenario of like, we'll just make like the hook on his hand be in post, like just some guy working the whole time to blur that fucking flag out the entire. Also, you know the joke about this, Monty. If people don't know, this isn't even vaguely weird. This is how they always did it. There, you idiots. That's why when Riot used to have the gall to go, yes, but some of our gay characters will be featured in games played there. They aren't gay there because that is not the law in those countries. So that's like saying that, like, because you as a Westerner know the bizarre backstory of a character. By the way, Faker himself even came out recently and basically said, like, I don't care about the law of the game and I don't know anything about it. I just play the fucking game or something. Like, you're pretending like in Saudi Arabia it was like that. It was always this way. They always just cut that from the broadcast. That's like the standard way of doing it. So if anything, it's just business as usual on this one, right? This is just what they do, mate.
I mean, put it this way.
And
remember, it was essential. It was essential that Team Liquid took this stand, wore this rainbow on their jersey, even though it is not the exact same as a pride flag. It has to be said as well. It is just the colorations of a rainbow.
It's not even really a flag. It's just like a weird set of colours that spread across part of the thing.
Yeah, it's a stylized rainbow.
It's like they they definitely sat down and had a group of people, Richard, go, how much can we make this sound like it's a rainbow flag without in any way being recognisable as a gay rainbow flag? Like that looks like what you would end up with.
And anyway, right, so I asked the question back to Team Liquid if it was so important because it was going to change people's minds and be this incredible stand and show solidarity with Saudi Arabian gay people. How can any of that happen if it's being blurred out and no one knows it exists?
Yeah. And this was, by the way, a core argument that the teams were making and that Riot itself was making, because we discussed this on a previous episode of the Four Horsemen, but when Richard was leaked internal Slack messages from Riot, the people that were there in the Rainbow Rioters, the LGBTQ community at Riot, were saying, well, it's really going to change people's minds, as Thorin, referred to, because we have these gay characters in the game. So the idea, remember, keep on target here, is that the teams and the developers were going to basically use cultural osmosis to influence the Saudi Arabian government and people by exposing them to these things, right? That is the justification for going in there, is that they're changing and we're going to help them change faster. The reality is, as we said would happen and was obviously going to happen, which is that the Saudi Arabian government does not want to change, which is why they are paying this money, because by having these events and doing things like sports washing and bringing Ronaldo over to their soccer team and buying all of professional golf, is that they get to cloak themselves in prestige and also the illusion that they are accepting of these people, because that way there is no pressure to change anything within their own country. And you can see this because they are actively censoring the media they are creating in order to, as far as it's concerned, to their own people. So clearly they have no interest in changing.
Now, apparently there is a quote which I'll just read. This is, again, Mykles got this quote from Team Liquid, they sent them this statement. We are disappointed to learn, upon your request for comment, that the Saudi broadcast of Esports World Cup Level Up has been altered to remove images of our Pride jersey, as well as important parts of our co-CEO, Steve Arhanset's story as a gay man in esports. While we understand that streaming services may change content to comply with local regulations or content policies, we disagree with this kind of censorship and have reached out to the Level Up production team and Amazon to look into the matter. Progress doesn't happen overnight. I don't know if you knew that, guys. But we are hopeful in our conversations around the topic, and we will continue to wear our jersey with pride across the globe, including at the Esports World Cup. So, I mean, ultimately...
Stay tuned, by the way, to see if they actually do that this year.
Yeah, they will. I don't think that'll change. It's like I say. I think as Duncan said, I think they focus grouped. How fucking vague can we make it? And you know, it's. I don't know why we keep doing this in the West. We do deals with countries that have very different values, and we always suspect there's going to be some sort of cultural osmosis where our more liberal ideas around things like, you know, sexual identity and things like that are going to somehow bleed through. And it just isn't going to happen. It's never going to happen. This is very reminiscent of when we had the World Cup in Qatar and we were told, here's what's going to happen. We're going to be selling beer. We've done a $400 million
By the way, think about this,
deal with
Richard.
Budweiser.
If you even ask people in the West to do like the oral history of like how culture changed, they will always cite things like media featuring people like gay people doing a case, a black woman and a white man doing a case. Like, these are the things they always cite as like the forerunner of that. So the joke is, if they're expressly telling you we won't allow that in, they're basically saying we're not going to change culture that way. That's like, they're just making it clear.
I mean, crucially, right, in every major sector of society, like the sports and politics just is entwined, you know, throughout all of human history, essentially, for as long as politics as we understand it today and sports as we understand it today have existed. The bread and circuses philosophy.
I mean, the Olympics were between city-states in ancient Greece. It was always political. Always.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, this is the same thing here, but it's like it takes somebody from one of those two stratas to essentially take a stand. Where are those people as it relates to Saudi and esports? The sad reality is esports doesn't have a Muhammad Ali. Right, it doesn't. We are waiting for that person to make themselves known. We are waiting for somebody to take for a prominent athlete that is excellent at their game to take a very public stand against something that is, you know,
and the joke is the kind of person you'd want, Richard, is exactly the people in the fucking pocket of the Saudis. Like, essentially, look, I'm not saying it specifically to them, but I'm going to use them as an example. You would want it to be like the Tariqs, the fucking Cadrals of the world. These actually, by the way, are way more powerful than players. Like, Faker can't even get the mic anytime he wants. If these people did that, Richard, that would be the fucking game changer. But the joke is, they're the very people the Saudis caught and pay.
I've got a good little segue for you on that point, Thorin. In fact, I'm going to send you. Let me just get you this link. I'm going to send you boys a link to look at, and it's just a little picture. It's if you're able to look at it, do. Maybe we can even include it in the recording. It is the opening ceremony co-streamers, right? And you're going to see all of the big names there. You're going to see your Scumps and your Nade Shots and your Tim the Tap Man. Ninja's back. Your old friend, Christopher. Arteezy's in there, right? Box, Kamato, your friend.
I didn't even know Box was still streaming.
Yeah, he's still around. He doesn't dress up as Riven anymore.
Price. You know.
Yeah. So, one thing you will notice is they're all male. Now, I seem to recall a time in esports where if you hired exclusively men,
sure,
hundreds of people would be tweeting about what a disgrace it was. The real comedic element,
especially for a world championship, that was a massive deal. TI, CS Major, it was a classic one.
The real comedic element to what is happening as it relates to criticism of the Esports World Cup is stances that we have not just made abundantly clear as being where we stand collectively as an industry. They're not happening anymore. But actually, people who have held those opinions in the past are now actively saying the opposite It's not just silence. It's people are coming, oh, well, you just want the best streamers, don't you? And if you combine you just look at it like a meritocracy and you just look at all of those numbers. Like, people are not complaining about this, whereas, Stockholm 2021, I was on the receiving end myself. We both were, Duncan and I. We worked an event where, by the way, as both of us said to PGL at that time, it's ridiculous that this woman wasn't hired, this woman wasn't hired. There should have been. It's got nothing to do with gender and just everything to do with competency.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was ridiculous that it was an all-male cast. But we got told as well, in a very diverse group of men, we got told that the diversity wasn't enough. We got told we were all white. Which is insane. There was Asian people there, dual heritage people there. It was crazy allegation. And as I said, it was coming from a Swede who isn't American and therefore must understand by virtue, of a white French European and a white Serbian European are not the same. But they are not the same ethnically. I mean, you get that, right? Yeah, the skin is white, but they are not the same ethnically, historically, culturally.
Yeah,
but Americans just can't wrap their head around that. Basically, it's just.
What's wild is even in America, obviously, it's such a massive country that people are super different. For example, a Cajun guy from Louisiana is going to be wildly different than someone from Seattle, even if they're both white. Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
And we do all love dust. So, I mean, look, it is wild kind of where we're at with this in terms of it's not just people putting their head in the sand. That's fair enough, I guess. I mean, you can't stop it. To go back to that quote, progress doesn't happen overnight. Nothing is going to happen overnight or otherwise that is going to change Saudi Arabia's mind on these particular issues, because it is a theocracy ultimately, and it is directly tied to their religious beliefs, which this is again where we tie ourselves in knots. Religious Americans believe in religious freedom, but then there are some religions that have inherent bigotry baked into it for whatever reason, because they're based on ancient texts, I suppose. So which one wins? Does religious freedom win? And if it does, and by the way, organizations like the ACLU have defended religious groups' rights to express bigoted opinions when challenged on them, or they lose their job or whatever it might be historically. They don't do that now, of course. But so it's a fucking mess. It's a total and utter mess. And all you have to really do, if you've been complicit in any way, at this point, just shut the fuck up. That's it. I mean, that's all. That's all you can do. Take it. Shut up, take the bag. Explicitly tell us you're taking the bag. We know you're taking the bag. We can see you taking the bag. Don't tell me you are fighting for social change, Team Liquid, because the more profound action would be to not participate. That would be an actual way to change things. You have chosen to participate. You absolutely don't get to have your cake and eat it on this issue. And this thing that's happened with the editing is fucking hilarious to me. And I will be writing an article about it where I'm going to reiterate all of these points, but in writing, because it's classic fucking frog and
By the way,
scorpion.
Speaking of which, I've got a little offering for you here, just to bring a little bit of irreverence to the show. So here's the thing, Monty. There's a weird thing where if you ever look into it, an example of how European cultures are different but have similarities is we all have all these idioms and weird turns of phrase, right? And so famously, I'll give you a classic one to prime you for this one. Famously, when we all got to know Janko, who's famously Serbian, and I'm talking real Serbian, he was there during all the bombings and all that stuff. He's not just a guy who just, emigrated to another country. He told us a classic example of one, Monty, which is their equivalent of, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. It's this one that goes, when the donkey is stuck in the mud, fuck it. Yeah. Well, along those lines, I've got a similar one for Team Liquid, because this one's excellent. Amazing. It's going to fit the moment so fucking well, and it's a real phrase. I didn't invent it. It's from Bulgarian culture, Monty. And this one goes, if you want the dick in the ass, you can't have the soul in heaven. That's their version of you can't have your cake and eat it. Look it up. That is their version of you can't have your cake and eat it. And all I'm going to say to Team Liquid is, holy fuck, have the Bulgarians nailed this one, haven't they, lads? I'm just saying, they've sort of fucking knocked that one out the park. Look it up. You can't have your cake and eat it.
That's so funny.
If you want the dick in the ass, you can't have the soul in heaven. Which is, listen,
fucking hell.
We're celebrating cultures. That's pretty out there.
And on the next LFN merch drop, that quote?
Yeah.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
They weren't messing around with that one. I'm telling you that one.
There's literally more chance of me hosting the Esports World Cup than you fucking releasing that T-shirt. But yeah, I mean,
I might if I wrote it in Bulgarian, Richard. Don't tempt me.
True. Yeah. I mean, it is just an absolute mess. And it's like I say, I don't know what Team Liquid were thinking. I don't know why they thought that. Right, like let's be real. Think about all the human rights activists down the years that have tried to move the needle on this particular issue.
Oh, sure.
Right? Think about like Amnesty International have tried to move the needle on the issue of human rights. And they have gone head-to-head with the Saudi Arabian state multiple times. We've had lots of people in the media that have written these stories. I mean, by the way, another story this week.
Bro, I always think one of the best examples ever that you're never going to really change it is that famous one, Richard, with the England football team, where the England football team said for the World Cup, we're going to basically wear like a rainbow armband while in your country.
Yep.
And then what happened was FIFA just said to them, Monty, if you do that, you will all get a yellow card every game you do that. And the way that it works in a competition like that is once you get a certain amount of yellow cards, you have to like miss a game and get suspended. So all that happened was they just immediately all folded and didn't do it. Now, again, in this scenario, these are like the biggest sports stars in the fucking like English speaking world. Like if there's anyone going to be a hero, like Richard says from Muhammad Ali moment, they're primed for it. But if even they fold instantly, what do you think people in esports who desperately need this money are going to do? They're not going to do any hero shit like that. Like that's not even on the table.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way as well, right? There was a story this week. And it was just perfect. So, you know, while they're reeling from the fact they've been fucking edited out, right? Like they're pioneering little rainbow. Oh, you're so brave. You're so fucking stunning and brave, aren't you, Team Liquid? A fucking rainbow. That could just be a rainbow. You've fucking done it, guys, right? You've stopped bigotry forever now, right? They're reeling from that blow. There was a story this week which said Saudi Arabia, according to Amnesty International, have killed, quote, horrifying number of people for minor drug crimes over the past decade, most of which were foreign nationals. And what they found is 2/3 of people that were executed in Saudi Arabia for, you know, possession of marijuana or, you know, smoking a joint or whatever it might be. I'm sure some of them were doing some hard stuff, whatever. But yeah, it was like the Pakistan people from Syria, people from Yemen, people from Nigeria, people from Egypt. And if you know anything about how Saudi culture essentially operates, they don't view those people to the same regard as they view their own citizenry. And so they were getting these insane, unfair trials and just executed. You had a joint. Put it this way. People used to say in America that America was like really draconian when you had stuff like in Nevada, like back in the 70s, the state of Nevada used to be like, you know, quite famously in, you know, they had that sign, don't gamble with marijuana, right? When you came in, because it was 25 years if you just had, you know, one joint, 25 years. And there's loads of examples. People used to say that's like draconian. And it's legalized now, of course, because you've seen forward progress. Do you ever think weed is going to be legal in Saudi, guys? So, no. So here's the reality. All your liberal values, you know, like be who you want.
By the way, it's not even legal for weed in South Korea, and they also coincidentally have quite an interesting perspective on gay rights. So again,
strange,
these cultures we already interact with, they don't necessarily change. Don't we just fit them as usual?
Yeah, exactly. And so you know, I imagine if I was to sit down and talk to Steve Arden and say, how do you feel about weed? Well, it should be legal, shouldn't it? Well, your business partners are killing people. They're killing them with unfair trials for possession. Possession, not dealing, you know, like not maybe you could go, well, you know, if you were peddling fentanyl to fucking kids, like, you know, maybe the net harm that does to society could warrant the death penalty. Spoiler, by the way, guys, I'm inherently against the death penalty because obviously if you're innocent, there is no way to ever take it back. And I've done things, you know, like people, by the way, should go and look up the Innocence Project. It's a fantastic initiative. They're trying to get people justice, either retroactively if they've been, you know, exonerate their name post-death. They're trying to get people out if they've been locked up in prison for life for on dubious charges. They do excellent work. But anyway, this is who Saudi is. And it is non-compatible with esports. We're all on fucking edibles half the time. You know what I mean? People are just fucking.
By the way, the real joke is, I do think it's incredibly unlikely for PR reasons they ever will persecute a Western famous esports gay person. But I'll tell you what, there are people who are Western in the industry who do stupid shit like travel to events every now and then with an edible left in their bag. That's what might actually get you fucked in it. So it's getting caught with that. That might be the one that gets you done.
And also, what are the odds that 0 of the opening ceremony co-streamers are not high while co-streaming the opening ceremony?
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm looking at this list of streamers. It's not 0, guys. It's not 0 of them.
Definitely not. No, but it's just so absurd. Like the only thing they're bringing to the table is the money. And also, going back to the documentary, it's not even like you're getting a great spectacle, guys. The way they had to cut around the fact that there was no one in the crowd is laughable. I am convinced many of the applause noises, I'm convinced it's stock. I don't even think that's real, because there are they zoom in on it, they zoom in so close. It's like the old trick they do in esports, where if you don't sell out a stadium, you corral everyone into one stand, so you get that shot of the stand being full. You don't do the full sweep and show the empty seats. That's the one you show whenever you do a cutaway to the crowd, because there's so many people there, and that's essentially what they have to zoom right in, and it's like 20 dudes going, yeah, let's go Falcons, yeah. And it's like there's no crowd, there's no spectacle to any of this. It's just a big, ridiculous, gaudy, fake,
which is also one of the reasons it's sports washing, because if this event was serious, they wouldn't need to have it take place in Riyadh. The only reason it takes place in Riyadh is for the sports washing to make Riyadh look good. Otherwise, they could just hold it in a place where there are actual esports fans. There's not some sort of law that Esports World Cup must happen in Saudi Arabia. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, not at all. It's literally just an exercise in I don't even understand, this. You're not going to make any money off this. That's never Saudi's concern. But this is such a tiny, small, stupid niche thing. You've used it to backdoor your way into the Olympics. There's no need to be doing any of this now. You should just end the Esports World Cup. You've achieved your goals. This isn't going to.
We'll see if it lasts.
This isn't going to compared to golf. Compared to MMA, compared to boxing,
WWE,
compared to wrestling, yeah, we are so small fry compared to the other industries that Saudi are taking over. And by the way, they're making inroads into Formula One as well. It's like football totally took over football. I mean, it's not just that they're going to have the World Cup and they're running this dog shit esports, running this World Club Cup thing in the middle of it. But also as well, they want to have Saudi Arabian teams from their league, where they've been spending a ton of money and footballers been getting a ton of pressure, like Henderson, your boy from fucking Liverpool, who he actually said this phrase, Monty. He said, "I've always been a good ally to gay people. I wore the rainbow laces." That's what he said. He had rainbow laces on his
What a
cleats.
hero for the people.
Again, it's like, you remember when Muhammad Ali went to prison because he didn't want to kill Vietnamese people?
Because he didn't like Vietnam.
Yeah, it's like, So anyway, they now want to have Saudi Arabian teams competing in the Champions League, which is a European event. It's exclusively a European event with European teams. And by the way, we kicked Russian teams out of it. Right, we kicked the Russian teams out because of the invasion of the Ukraine. But if you want to just bomb kids to death in Yemen, I guess that's fine. Come in. So and trust me, they will get in. You're going to see Al Nasser, Al Hilal, whoever the big fucking whoever the big two in Saudi are. I won't lie, I don't really keep up with Saudi Arabian football. They're going to be in European competition very, very soon. They'll probably do it prior to the World Cup as a ramp in, so people get saturated with Saudi Arabian culture and Saudi Arabian football identity. You're not gaining anything from esports. Don't think for a second they're not going to drop this, because they are going to drop this.
Yeah, they will.
100%. Yeah.
Here at the Four Horsemen, we love our Raycon everyday earbuds. I just got back from a trip back to the United States. I use them on the flight. They have active noise cancellation, so they're really good in noisy environments where you might not want to be distracted, like on an airplane while you're listening to music or watching a movie on your phone. Their latest model is better than ever, has 32-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity, so you can pair it with 2 different devices at the same time. Prevents you from having to unpair and then repair, which is really annoying. And also, they can have a great quick charge function, and just 10 minutes of charging will get you 90 minutes of battery. They are just half the price of other premium audio brands and deliver active noise cancellation and great quality. I have enjoyed using mine very much. Plus, they come in a ton of different colors, so you can choose which one suits you. So you can go to buyraycon.com/horsemen. That's horsemen, plural, HORSEMEN.com. To get 15% off Raycon's best-selling everyday earbuds. Right now, Raycon is offering 15% off their best-selling everyday earbuds at buyraycon.com/horsemen. Buyraycon.com/horsemen. Check them out. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll have more as the Esports World Cup unfolds, but we should turn now to the very hilarious announcement of Riot.
I mean,
accepting betting sponsor.
Just fun. This is what I love. By the way, the topic of this episode is actually thematic, guys. Even though it looks like we're talking about all these disparate things, it is people that have held a position in the past, renouncing that position, not just changing that position, but renouncing that position and then trying to gaslight you that they ever held that position in the first place. And actually, it's good that we're doing this. It's good. It's actually good now. When we denounced it 10 years ago,
what changed? What changed, Richard?
Yeah.
How could I don't understand? How could betting in sports be wrong before, but suddenly right now? What changed? What changed?
Well, I mean,
by the way, I also do think the framing I want to set for this particular topic is way more sinister than even what categories do they allow and how they change their culture. Because the framing goes like this. I'll use a little political in-joke for people who get the reference. This isn't just like 10% for the big guy. Riot shit is like, how about 90% for the big guy and you can have the 10% at the end? Like, this is FTX deal and crypto all over again, guys. Yep. So, hey, we wouldn't allow something like that in our space. It's shady and unregulated. What's that, TSM? You've done what we should be doing with our league and basically have implicitly almost promised we would do since you're our partners, which is get you massive deals. Oh, you've got a massive deal of your own worth loads of money. That's like a license to print money because, again, it's crypto or gambling. Oh, in this case, you can't have that. You know, why would we let you have in the league? Oh, hey, people that had the deal with TSM, if you just come with us and sponsor us directly, maybe, you know, we let TSM in. Listen, TSM, not on our broadcast, mate. Only will be on our broadcast. It's like, you're such a predatory person. You've literally essentially said, like, I claim prima nocta to fuck your wife before she becomes your wife because I am the fucking Braveheart evil king guy. And on top of that, like, basically, at the end of it all, I won't even let people know that she fucks you. You have to fuck her in secret, mate. But everyone has to know I did it in front of the whole crowd. Like, that's the most sinister part because they're doing it again with this betting thing, guys. If you read between the lines of what it means that you have to get the company vetted, and that's going to go through this third-party company, which also seemingly is invested in an own
Merrill Enterprises.
It just essentially becomes a thing where it's like, cause a team, in this case, I assume some of the fucking LCS order type people have gone out there, they could get a betting deal. Now you have to just help Riot get their fucking beak wet as well. Like, I find that part the most sinister part because it's not just that these fuckers make seemingly infinite money off esports and then turn around and pretend like, we're only making like a little bit. Here's your $3 million everyone, or $1 million or whatever it is revenue. Like, they also now are just doing some like sinister shit where they're like gatekeeping your sponsorship that you did everything for. Remember, they don't help you with this. It's not like they go to the meeting with you and go, hey, was it Riot? No, you do the whole legwork, and after that you have to turn around and give it to Riot. Like, I find that this makes it feel, by the way, like you're not allowing us to join your table. We bring the table and the food and the entertainment, and then you just go, I take it first though. Like, it's fucking greedy.
We'll get to that because the statement they released is obviously full of lies because it's Riot. But we do need to set the table a little bit first on this discussion by talking about the people who are involved. And the most important entity that you may not know exists if you're not part of this industry is a company called Grid, GRID. And Grid... you have never heard of them.
Is sort of AIDS in some way. Bit of an edgy joke there, but whatever. Look it up.
So anyway, Grid is
pretty good.
It is pervasive in the industry, and it's not just dealing with Riot Games, so people know. It is a company that does basically API access and odds for the entire esports industry. So, for example, when I was working for Flashpoint, we worked with Grid And all of the Counter-Strike operators do. Basically, everybody in esports works with Grid. And you may be wondering,
including match
well, that's
fixes,
weird.
it turns out. That's for another episode.
Yeah, possibly.
Really, they really do work with everyone. They do it all.
So you might be asking, like, why is this Grid company so important to the betting ecosystem? And the issue is this, is that they are the bridge between the games that are being played and the betting platforms. Okay. So what happens is they have deals with tournament operators, with developers. And what happens is those games, they have access to the API of the tournament servers on which those games are being played. And that information is being streamed in real time to them. Why do they need this? Well, because if they don't have instantaneous data to alter the odds on their website, what can happen is, let's say there's a broadcast delay. Okay, there's a broadcast delay, and it's a 3-minute broadcast delay, and not that I've done this because I couldn't because we used Grid, but I am sitting at the event. I'm on the production staff. I'm a member of the talent. I'm a tournament operator, right? I'm a referee. I can, even if I'm in the arena for an event, I can see what's going on ahead of what's going on the stream. So in theory, I could be sitting on my phone in an arena watching an event, making bets on information that they do not have yet. So it is absolutely critical to the ecosystem of esports betting that Grid has, or other companies like this, have the information coming in real time from the tournament servers in order to ensure that the betting lines are honest and protected. Now, obviously, the hilarious part of this, you'll notice, is you'll say to yourselves, well, that's weird. Before this, I saw all of this betting on these websites for League of Legends and Valorant. If Riot doesn't allow betting, how is Grid getting access to this information? And the truth is about Riot Games is that they have been supplying this to the betting sites via Grid for years and pretending that they don't support betting. They have enabled the betting. In fact, betting would not exist on Riot Games titles unless they allowed Grid to use their API to send it.
Remember,
to the
we don't even have
platforms.
replays in League, bro. Like, this would be the easiest game to shut down the access of anything, of course.
Oh, no, they control absolutely who has access. It's not an open API, especially to their tournament servers. And you have to remember that the tournament realms in these games are different than the live realms. So even if you had access to the live realm APIs, you wouldn't have access to where the professional games are being played. So this is locked down access, and not very many people have access to the tournament servers, and Grid is one of those companies. And Riot has obviously supported this throughout the entire time that Grid has been active within League of Legends and Valorant. So it is a straight up lie by Riot that they had nothing to do with betting. They had everything to do with betting. They created the betting market in the first place, because without this access, it simply could not exist.
Yep. I mean, look, it's not just Riot that create all these issues around betting. We've said this as well. You can stop match fixing tomorrow by simply not having garbage tournaments on. You don't offer the action, like you say. You can revoke API access. There's no need for match fixing to be this runaway problem. There's no need for esports betting to be this sprawling nightmare that it is. It could just be a few prestige events put on a betting website.
Yeah, what Richard's saying is they could say that it is prohibited from providing live information, live data via the API for tier 2.
They
could do that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you could selectively do it for events. Like, nobody. Maybe you can't bet on LCS, but maybe you can on Worlds or whatever it might be, or vice versa. They will not. No one's going to take a punt if that live betting information is protected, if they're not getting that data, because obviously it means people can get fucking absolutely bilked. You can get got, like, as a bookmaker, if people know something's coming down the pipeline and they can bet accordingly on a spot bet or whatever it might be, you're going to lose every time. So they're not going to have that there. But I mean, look, the thing that is offensive about what Riot are doing here is the fact, for years, right, before we were in bed with Saudi, we were in bed with the betting sites, and Riot kept telling you dirty slut, in bed with them. How dare you? How dare you? Never us. You can't even show, even though they sponsor your business and your business participates in our business and actually promotes our business by virtue of it being there, we are not going to allow you to show those sponsors. We're not going to allow you to take those sponsors. And then it was like, oh, right, well, actually, that's going to reduce the deals overall in the industry because Riot Games is the biggest show in town and that's where people want to be advertised. That's where you're going to have the most impact from that kind of sponsorship deal. But then they got in bed with crypto. They're like, okay, look, right, we won't do betting, right? We understand that's problematic. People can get addicted. So why don't we do this completely unregulated fucking fruit machine of a stock market, right? And we'll do that, and then we'll have crypto where everyone's getting rug pulled. There's all scams everywhere.
Very different from betting, by the way.
Yeah,
very,
completely.
Very
yeah, you're definitely not gambling when you buy a shit coin hoping it's going to go up so you can sell it to a fucking moron. Yeah, there's no gambling involved in that. It's all skill. You're just playing the market, aren't you? And so then it was crypto, and then. Like, how many times have we told you sluts to stop sleeping around with these people? No, but Riot, this is a bit of a strange framing, isn't it? No. We would never get in bed with them. Can we have their number? All right, yeah, okay. And so they ended up with the FTX exchange. By the way, hilarious that the one they just so happened to choose is at the heart of some insane political scandal and also a giant fucking Ponzi scheme. Well done. The legendary fucking Riot vetting process.
Well, but that's because they chose the one that paid them the most money because that one was because Sam Bankman-Fried was a League of Legends LCS TSM fan, and also because, as we now know, he was paying everybody absurd amounts of money for sponsorship because he was a moron.
Well,
so
it's not even
they took the biggest deal.
The beauty of
but it was because he was running a bad business.
The beauty of it is, obviously, you can pay everyone loads of money because he knows none of it's real to begin with. He knows that, right? He was just some bronze scrub ripped to the tits on Adderall, and somehow he finessed the Riot executive body. Go figure, right? It's mental, isn't it? But
that was like his version of buying the island of Manhattan for a few beats.
Yeah,
exactly. You dickhead.
No,
I've got the whole thing now. It's brilliant.
It is an apt comparison to say that the Riot executive body basically got asked, "Do you want to buy the Golden Gate Bridge?" And they said, "Yes, we'd love to own that bridge." And they did, and they bought it, and they thought they owned it. If you know anything about it, and listen, I'm certainly no expert in the crypto space. I knew it was garbage right from the start. I've said, if you ever think you're going to get some off the grid alternative to fiat currency that the governments of the world are going to allow you to indulge in without them getting their fucking piece, you're mentally ill and you don't interface with reality in any way, shape or form. And I've been vindicated. I had all the crypto bros. You're a moron, old man. You don't even know what you're talking about. I made £50 on fart coins, so I know how global economies work. You fucking idiot. I had to deal with that for years, right? Because I just said crypto's bollocks. I don't want a crypto sponsor. I don't want to do this. I'm never going to do that, right? That was my opinion on it, right? Obviously, people have different opinions. I know many people who got rich on crypto and they told me to get into it at the time they were getting rich, and I look at them now and they're crypto millionaires and I'm going, probably should have done that. Probably should have just, again, swallow the opinion, Richard. Take the money, don't take being right. But I feel vindicated over time. So, anyway, point being,
you can never truly calculate the
money
Richard,
is temporary.
how many millions
forever.
Being right, especially against the crowd.
It's true.
Some would say priceless.
I may not always be a millionaire, but I will always be fucking right.
If you ever want a certain sponsor out there to make the most straight fire something's a priceless advert ever, do the Four Horsemen one. Yeah. You could have had millions from Saudi. You could have, but sometimes being right is priceless, and then it's just us.
It's just going to be me on a fucking street corner, brown bag in a bottle of fucking methylated spirits. It's just going to be...
Anyway, about night moves.
Yeah, and it's just going to be on a T-shirt that says, "At least I was right." Wrecked with cirrhosis and don't have a house at the age of 60. But anyway, the point being, right, when everybody got into bed with crypto because they couldn't get into bed with gambling at Riot's behest, even though they were in bed with gambling anyway, they just weren't showing them on the League of Legends jerseys.
And they were making money from gambling because the way it worked, to be clear, is Grid pay Riot for access, gambling company pay Grid for API information. And so basically Grid was just a vehicle for moving money from gambling companies through a separate corporate entity straight into Riot.
Yeah. And which is why the whole stance that they've took is so ridiculous, because of, you essentially told your business partners they can't eat if you don't like the food, which is mental. Like, it's just a mental thing to do, right? So then they did it with crypto, but then they went one further and essentially stole TSM's sponsor after initially saying you can't have that sponsor. Then they announced their deal, and then so it was hilarious when that fell down. NFTs, all of that, and now they've totally walked back their stance on gambling and gambling sponsorships, and we're probably going to see. I don't think we're that far away from seeing segments built into the broadcast now, like you used to get with fucking Jimmy the Greek or whatever. We're going to be talking about, the odds matrix and who's going to win, and like it's normalized on a CS broadcast. You just have the odds pop up,
and every sports broadcast ever. Especially. I mean,
by the way, isn't that also another thing, Monty? I don't know. You're someone who's actually, again, lived in the league ecosystem, but also had experience of other ones. Isn't that another thing, by the way? I could have added that to my joke of the things that the fans can't understand. Bloody hell, mate. We're still doing the thing in 2020. But gambling, isn't that like morally wrong? That's the discourse in 2025 esports. Like, have you guys followed any other sport? Like, what are we doing?
Unfortunately, the average fan does believe that there is some sort of moral equivalence between the Saudi Arabian state beating a confession out of a gay person than executing them without a fair trial, and me getting addicted to gambling and smashing my kid's piggy bank and putting it all on fucking black or red or whatever,
It's mad,
look, and also, like, personally, I have no issues with betting in general. But also, like, the alternative, it's like if you make alcohol illegal, guys. So the problem with prohibition in the United States is that alcohol is something that can be made in an undetectable fashion in a bathtub. And so what happens is you can't stop people. It doesn't take an advanced laboratory. It doesn't take insane amounts of electricity or an obvious like farm of stuff outside. It is literally an undetectable thing that anybody can make. And so what happens when you make it illegal? Right in the toilet.
Yeah, that's right. Mate, until you've had my toilet wine, don't you fucking you hush your mouth. So.
But the point is like it's one of those things where if you try and make it illegal or push it underground, unless the punishments are so severe, like death for doing it, what happens is it just gets controlled by organized crime, and that's what happened in America, right? It didn't stop anybody from drinking. Maybe it did stop a few people, but what it did was it created an incredibly terrible criminal underground that was highly violent and significantly worse than making it legal.
By the way, I'll give you the ultimate reason why, and it'll sound counterintuitive, but if you actually understand the industry, it's the only answer that makes sense. Richard wants to expose this. Sadly, I can't remember the title of the video. It'll just be one of his videos about like betting sponsorships or something. He essentially pointed out the true elephant in the room, Monty, which is even literally like legalized ones with licenses in countries that you all respect aren't actually obliged to pay you out your winnings. Once you know that, the question becomes, like you're saying, Monty, more of like a fucking utilitarian thing of like, how can we actually like get this so it vaguely works though? And by the way, making it so they have to legally register in certain countries and have licenses is a way to at least encourage them for PR reasons to pay you out, etc. Because otherwise, when it's unlicensed, that you can never get to them, you can never get to their jurisdiction, you'll never get them. And like, essentially, it is only worse if it's unregulated. Like, so this is the closest you can get to making it work. Because, as you say, people are going to do it anyway. You may as well at least make it so that like people can profit in a vaguely responsible manner, and you encourage people to actually do what they're saying, which is pay out the winners.
And when people lose their money, there aren't a bunch of thugs coming to break their bones or kill them.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, look, put it this way, though. To expand on Duncan's point, there is an element within gambling that is certainly seedy in the sense that even a licensed, regulated bettor, what they do is they always bring you into the fold with. There's always, if you sign up today, there's always some insane bet you can get. a bet that it seems too good to be true. A bet that you would almost certainly be like, well, holy shit, if that comes in, I'm going to be profiting. And there's all these like caveats. You know, it's like, 400 to 1 for England to win against Cameroon today. Well, fucking hell, that's mental. I'll put a tenner on that. But it's fucking great, right? But obviously there's all these caveats. It can only stay in the thing. But then once you're on, once they've brought you into that world of gambling and essentially normalized it in your mind, you're more likely to participate in it. This is exactly what the whole point of advertising in esports is. They do want to get a young audience. I mean, listen, I'm not going to say regulated, responsible gambling companies want to capture children and make them gamble in that sense. I'm going to say they want 18 plus. Our demographic, right? Yes, it skews young, but it is like 18 to 25 essentially. That's perfect. That's exactly what they want to start you gambling, 18 to 25, right? Like I'm pro, like not pro gambling. I'm just like, I'm a permissive guy. Like I want you to do whatever the fuck you want in your life, right? It's none of my business. And it's definitely none of the government's fucking business.
By the way, it's kind of crazy how many people think it's paramount that you have all sexual freedom and freedom of speech, but you're not allowed to put a fucking tenner on.
Yeah, I can't put a tenner on Liverpool to win the league.
Give me a break, I know.
Because some guy might get addicted.
Exactly.
And it's the thing, do the intellectual exercise with these people and say, so you're against fast food then? We know for a matter of fact, they put things in fast food to get you addicted to fast food, which you then eat. And I can say this as a fat guy, you get fat and you get unhealthy, right? And so we know that the big food complex is doing that to people. And we just go, yeah, but you would never ban McDonald's, right? You would never think to ban McDonald's. In fact, if the government told you you can't have your Big Mac and fries, you'd probably think that was actually really restrictive. And yet...
un-American, you might say.
Yeah. And then you do the same with like alcohol. You go, prohibition's such an outdated concept, right? You do it with weed. By the way, right, anything that you engage in, right, there are pros and there are cons. There is dopamine hits and there are depressing and terrifying lows. I've smoked a lot of weed. I've had mates that have smoked a lot of weed. They went bananas. I've never believed this idea that like weed is some sort of zero-sum drug and it's just, hey man, chill, smoke some ganja, relax. It's like, I've seen people legitimately go fucking, mental off that stuff, right? Because, it's absolutely honking strong these days. Now, I would never say...
It's like military grade strong.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're smoking an ounce of fucking...
You're talking about how it was in 1969 in the summer of love. Yeah. It's 2025 where they have refined the process of, THC
you're smoking
to the
an ounce of something called gorilla panic, right? Yeah, it's going to break your fucking brain, of course, is eventually. Like, and that's fine, by the way. Like, we have to agree as a society that some people are going to fall by the wayside. Some people are going to do these things, and it's not going to agree with them. But you absolutely don't ban the 99% that are going to be okay. Right, because of the 1% that aren't, you try and help them. You help them get better. You medicate them.
And especially
you advise
because
them, you make them aware of what's happening. You do addiction programs, whatever it might be. That's what
especially because does. by shoving it into the shadows, it becomes worse. Most of the time.
Yeah, and so when it comes to gambling, though, you say to these esports fans, here's what they say. They go, yeah, but like people get addicted to it and that, and gambling addiction is the worst addiction. Now, I've got some insight into this. I went to, I used to have a friend, he used to run a church, and he was in the Unitarian movement, if anyone knows what that is, right? Which sounds ominous like Scientology, but they just basically welcome anyone that just believes in a single solo God, essentially. That's like what the uni stands for.
It's like a church for agnostics.
Yeah, exactly. It's a church for agnostics that believe in something, and the something they believe in is definitely one
thing. Could be anything.
Yeah, they don't believe in pantheons. They don't believe in holy trinities. It's just one thing. But that's it. That's the only unifying cause. Now, because he was his official title was a Doctor of Divinity, I believe was his official title. But he used to run this church, and as a result of that, he would put on these community groups, where people would go and, like in Fight Club, right? And he used to do Gamblers, like a Gamblers Anonymous one. I think he'd had some problems with gambling in his life and overcome them, and so he could offer some insight. And, me and him used to fucking hang out, and I'd be like, listen, he'd be like, I've got a group tonight, but like, if you want to stick around, like have some free coffee, just sit there, listen. We can go out and, hit the beers afterwards. Definitely not good for the Alcoholics Anonymous to have that one, ticking in the back of your brain. But anyway, so I've been there a few times, sat there and listened to these stories, and the horrifying laws of gambling are exactly that. They are horrifying. When people are unable to pay their mortgage or feed their fucking kids, because they've got themselves into some fiendish, depraved run of chasing a big win because they're convinced this time it'll happen. Like the cosmos has to balance the scales for them, and it just doesn't work like that. It's really disturbing to hear. But again, that shouldn't give anybody the right to say, government, help us, ban them. Gambling is a great moral evil. It's like, it's something to make your day more exciting if you can afford to do it. I'm not a big gambler.
Yep.
Like me and Duncan probably don't gamble at all. You know why? We grew up dirt poor in like the fucking mining towns of England. Like if you found a tenner on the ground, you spent that on a good time. You fucking you went out and tried to seize joy by the fucking throat for 5 minutes before you went back to the life of drudgery. You don't put it on a horse. You know what I mean? You spend it. You spend it on something you need or whatever. So, you know, I've never had an issue with it, and I've never had a problem with it. But like the way people talk about gambling is like mind blowing to me.
And as you say, if people want to make stupid equivalences elsewhere, how the fuck are you guys who do permit literal murderers to run esports and to take all of your gay heroes and tell them shut the fuck up and sit in the corner and be a part of it? How are you then going to turn around and go, but gambling is morally wrong? Yeah. You have no leg to stand on.
Or you say, my favorite one is the people who say things like, well, you know, it's really important for the teams to survive that they take the money from Saudi Arabia. Times are hard, but not the gambling money. Oh, God.
I mean, put it this way.
I can tell you, by the way, as a quick aside, because this doesn't relate to League of Legends, I can tell you, Jason Lake will openly tell you in Counter-Strike, his biggest problem competing with Europeans is they all have massive gambling sponsors, and he's stuck in America where it's like super limited as to who you can get. And so like the joke is the exact same argument as to why we have to let the Saudis in. It's the same argument for the gambling.
He said that
it was a dark day. It was a dark day when FanDuel and Alpha Draft got by the government as well, because they found the loophole essentially, and they were spending fuck tons of money. But then of course their own staff started using their matrices that they used. So all of the FanDuel people went on Alpha Draft. All of the Alpha Draft people went on FanDuel. It cheesed the fucking system. It got discovered, and the next thing you knew, that was all illegal. But I mean, look, to further on from just this point, and then get us back to the esports discussion. For me, what the Saudi Arabian presence in esports has done, and look, anything that isn't as bad as a tyrannical state that criminalizes gay people, women's rights activists, you know, and like actively persecutes and kills those people, you can have any
and uses esports to cover up those crimes. You
can then go up to anything that's on the next rung of the ladder down, because you've normalized this. So basically, like if Cloud9 came out tomorrow and said, right, we've got a Blood Diamond sponsor, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, okay, cool, fine. I'm going to get one. You know what I mean? Because like until we erase that tier of the anything up to your like that's worse. So ultimately, this has to be okay, and that's the other problem with it. It's like I feel like people are complaining about things that, I mean, the gambling is so far away from what the Saudi Arabian state does, and yet it sticks in people's craw, and I've never understood it. Maybe it's because there is a sensitivity to it in esports, because it is a younger audience, and like there have definitely been kids skins gambling since they were like fucking 13 and stuff, you know what I mean? Coming from a Counter-Strike world, we raised a generation of fucking degenerate teenage gamblers, you know what I mean? Like,
that's even the one where I always did feel like, even though, again, look, it's up to parents to raise their own kids, that was always the one that did make me feel mildly uncomfortable, Richard, because that is the one where when your mum did put the fucking credit card in so you could buy something separately, like a pass for the major, magically you click that little tick and now you can use it to buy the fucking cases.
Crazy, isn't it?
That one, the difference is betting companies have way more hoops you have to jump through than that. I mean, I've always told people, especially crypto ones, I've had crypto fucking exchanges where I had to like show them my like fucking housing agreement to like confirm the account and shit. Like the actual, that's another thing that I hate about this topic. People make it sound like we're saying let every single gambling company in the world be in esports, including massively unregulated ones where like anyone could sign up. That, as far as I know, those don't even exist in esports on like a major scale. Like even the ones that aren't registered in the UK and stuff, they still have like all these ridiculous checks and identity checks and so. Like at the end of the day, if you can get through all that, like what can't you get through at that point? Like that's way more restrictive than going and asking someone outside of off license, can you get me some alcohol inside the shop? Which, by the way, still works to this day. That tactic isn't even fucking out of date. So if you can do that,
God bless him.
then I'm not as worried that like 15-year-olds are getting
God bless every one of them, every one of those people that are doing.
So anyway, this is needless to say, none of us have ethical issues with betting sponsorship. And
if we did, hasn't that ship sailed? Is kind of the point, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, look, we've all had sponsorship deals with regulated betting sites and regulated crypto sites. So I mean, again, I never got in crypto. I don't judge you guys for fucking having crypto sponsors on your thing, because I mean, it's that's a personal choice. I don't think crypto is like illegal or like maybe there is, like, if you really wanted to twist rhetoric and go, there's a predatory aspect because it relies on the greater fool theory. We could do sophistry till the fucking cows come home. But the reality is, like, here's something I do know: killing people because they're gay is wrong. so like, there's just not a lot of wiggle room on that fucking debate, right? So it's like, if you're normalizing the people that do that, not just normalizing them, welcoming them into the space and holding them up. Because by the way, in that esports documentary, you'll never guess what Ralph Reichart says with a straight face. He goes, the Esports World Cup was all Mohammed bin Salman's idea.
Fucking hell.
Oh, God.
And now, by the way, one key component of propaganda is you almost hail glorious leader, right?
No, mate, this does have some fucking that Kim Il Sung or whatever, the father one, where they used to claim he had like a hole in one and fucking. This is like on the level. Yeah. How ridiculous are these stories? It's not even vaguely plausible.
So to turn this back to Riot, because it's very important.
I realize
to discuss.
We're talking about Riot, and I barely criticized Riot. I've been so hopped up on this fucking Saudi stuff.
So let me just speed run you guys through what Riot announced. So you if you are coming to our show from an esport that already has active betting sponsors, you are about to have a hearty laugh about what they are allowing, because you will see the evil inherent in Riot. Not only because obviously they lied for years about not supporting betting sites, which they were propping up through giving API access to, but you will see that this is very clearly to benefit Riot and not really to benefit the teams. So if you're coming from Counter-Strike and you're like, wow, the betting sponsors are actually the things running our scene, and wow, it's great that the players get paid and the teams can make money and the tournament organizers can make money, because this is giving us a lot of the cool stuff in Counter-Strike, right? It basically is, if the betting sponsors were to be if Valve said no more betting sponsors in Counter-Strike, the tournament circuit would die tomorrow. The teams would die tomorrow, period. That's how it works. So all of the good things you guys get in Counter-Strike is because of the betting sponsors that exist in that space. Otherwise, it would be significantly smaller.
We even have ones like this topic where getting the bag supersedes anyone's professed values. So, as Richard said, supposedly, Monty, as a scene, we in Counter-Strike ejected Russians and anyone connected to the Russian state. But you know what, Monty? I won't say the name, but you can just be sponsored by a company that is a Russian betting company, and you can have that all over your shit, even if you were the very company that ejected Russians and said you're not allowed to win our tournament. Like, that's the level of fucked up, like, paradox we existed in CS, but we all just stomach it and just watch the tournament. Man, that's the world we live in.
I mean, not to mention as well, all the teams coming out of that region, like, how many teams now are just gambling site name?
Of course.
Right? And so we do this.
And you'll notice some of those teams, Richard, used to be no one in CS esports. They have millions of dollars to spend now. They're the richest folks
and so we've been doing this thing where we come up with fucking pseudonyms for them, as if in so look, I don't give a fuck, me, like, so sorry boys, but like I'm a saying the names. So right, you go to an event, right, and it's like every 1xBet sponsor everything in Counter-Strike, right? They just sponsor,
that's the big one.
They sponsor everything. And to be clear about 1xBet, while they were founded by Russians, I do believe one of which died in very dubious circumstances, as wealthy Russian people tend to do. There's all bloody hell, he's fell out the building. Bloody hell, he licked that poisonous frog to cure a hangover.
That's been true for thousands of years for wealthy Russian people.
That's just how them motherfuckers roll. You know what I mean? That's just how that goes, right? Like, so if the government gets its cut or otherwise, you're having an accident. That's how that works. But anyway, right? So 1xBet was initially a Russian company, but I for whatever reason, maybe it's because they didn't want to fall out of buildings, they decided, like, fuck this, we want to go, and now they're registered in Cyprus, right? So
Cyprus,
it's technically a Cypriot company. It's all there. They're all moved out, and people go, you see, it's okay because of that, right? Now, by the way, 1xBet has been called out in, I think it's the Dutch Antilles. They lost a lawsuit for, like, again, the classic non-payment of things. I think as well, it was like when did they sponsor Barcelona or something crazy, and everyone lost their shit over that. Anyway, there was all these like investigations into them in the real world, like away from our shit, and they were deemed to be a problematic sponsor. Now they're ubiquitous in Counter-Strike, right? Like, and by the way, like, I mean, listen, I don't have a problem with them. I want to make that clear as well. Like, out of all, when companies are called dodgy, right, in the real world, you have to understand in esports, the things I've seen, I go, what, that level of, that's a 2. That's a 2. That wouldn't even get onto an esports news site, guys. What are you talking about? Like, so that's kind of how I feel about it. I've been very much blackpilled on all the shit I've seen in this industry. But anyway, so you have a 1xBet commercial, and then we cut to Team Bet Boom playing Paravision. Right, and we have to call them Team BB versus P Vision. And it's like, are we doing that because gambling sponsors bad, or are we doing that because their gambling sponsor bad but ours good? Because both are ridiculous, guys.
This is so. If you are familiar with Counter-Strike, you'll be used to the teams having betting sponsors, logos on the jerseys, advertisements on the broadcast, live odds on the broadcast, these kind of things. If you're not, and you're coming from League of Legends or Valorant and you're watching this show, that's what CS is. Personally, I don't find it too invasive, honestly. It doesn't...
Couldn't give less of a fuck.
It doesn't really affect my enjoyment of Counter-Strike.
Do that, right? Everyone comes up with euphemisms for them. One of the things I love about, like, if you know Suns Fan and Cinderin, Suns Fan, like, you had to call them Team BB.
These are Dota commentators, guys, just so you know.
You have to call them Team BB. By the way, lovely people as well, like, really cool people. And Suns fans, he's like us. He's a horseman in his own right. He does take a stand on a bunch of stuff. He's called Valve out for a ton of times for things they've done to Dota. He's a game dev now. Just a legendary guy. And anyway, he did a cast where he was calling them a different iteration of Team BB every time he had to say their name. So it was BBW, BBL, whatever it might be, right? Like, he was just... Because to just hammer home how absurd it is that we're doing this... this thing, it's like gambling's just normalized in the Dota and Counter-Strike space. Like, we just do it all the time. All of these teams, they're the only sponsors in town. Right? Like, it's as simple as that. They're the ones that will level up your game from being a bedroom organization to a genuine competitor on the world stage. All you have to do is take the name. That's it.
They even are the title sponsor of the HLTV MVP award every tournament, Monty. So it's just ubiquitous. That's why I say it must be so jarring if you are someone who only lived... Like, if you lived in League of Legends this whole time, you're like the Japanese soldier that still thinks World War II is going on. Like, you're so out of date with esports. It's crazy.
It's also... I would make an argument, Thorin, and I'd love to hear your take on this. I would argue that the betting sponsors in CS are actually less invasive than the Red Bull Baron power play in League of Legends. I actually find the LoL sponsors to be more invasive in terms of how in your face they are in the gameplay. Now, you guys should be seeking a little bit more internet security, especially as we're all wandering around airports and cafes, restaurants where we're attached to their Wi-Fi. And if you want to encrypt your information while you're on that Wi-Fi, we recommend you get some ExpressVPN to keep yourselves secure. It can also be useful if you're traveling abroad, going to a foreign country where they may just be looking at your data. May not want that at all. I certainly don't. And also, your ISP may be collecting your data and then selling it. So ExpressVPN is a great way to prevent that from happening. So effectively, guys, it's super easy. All you got to do is download the app on your phone. I just keep it running in the background all the time on my phone right now. Perfectly fast. I can't even notice the difference between using it and not using it. You can also, of course, use it with the desktop app on your PC. If you're savvy enough, you can even install it on certain routers and run your entire network through ExpressVPN. So it is so secure. It would take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past ExpressVPN's encryption. And you can also... it's rated #1 by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. You can secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/horsemen. That's horsemen, plural, HORSEMEN. That's EXPRESSVPN.com/horsemen to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months free. expressvpn.com/horsemen. But anyway,
That's
you guys will have a laugh at what Riot actually announced here, which is that they say they don't want a bunch of betting ads on the broadcast. So this is so hilarious. So they frame it as, and I quote, protecting the viewing experience.
Oh, right, okay.
Even though, as you just said, I'm just watched the tournament, Monty, where in the analyst desk, they have to tell me for the replay, this is the Cisco network solutions. Every second counts. Which, by the way, the second that even comes out your mouth again, it's like some Bill Hicks, that's a turd in the punch bowl. You're ruining the whole segment in history. And then also the Red Bull power play. By the way, that Red Bull ad as well, they have in the commercials in between. People, I know, Monty, because of how Flashpoint work, people get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to workshop these ideas. They sat around and the Red Bull advert was someone going, Grand Theft Baron? Like, that's nothing there. That's a throwaway you don't even go. That's a warm-up, you know what I mean? Like, someone ended on that, like, and can I have the $50,000 now? Like, this is, I know what you mean, Monty. It's so whack how, like, I know, it's so in your face they're doing that, but then they're like, we wouldn't want to, like, sully this product, though.
Why not like Grand Theft Auto Smite?
No, nothing works about it at all.
you know what I mean?
No. And also they're promoting felony crimes. But anyway,
get me in that writer's room. I'll fucking I'll spin straw into bronze.
So the quote here is, the last thing we want to do is disrupt LoL esports and VCT broadcasts with an influx of sports betting ads, because we've already spoiled them with an influx of other ads. Okay. So the last thing we want to do is that would be too much. So we've established at the onset that Riot-owned broadcast and social channels will stay betting free, which means no ads, no sponsored segments from betting partners, and no betting partner logos on team jerseys. So not even the teams are allowed. They don't have to shout it out in the interview. They don't have to be, whatever, Cloud9 brought to you by a betting sponsor or whatever in their team name that the casters have to say. They literally can't have a logo of a betting sponsor on their shoulder while they play the game League of Legends or are occasionally on camera. Okay, can't have that. It will be up to each team to craft how sports betting related content shows up on their channels within the guidelines of the sponsorship program, content platform, terms of service, and local regulations. So what they are saying is that teams can sell betting sponsors, but only if you're not on the official broadcast. And by the way, that's like most of the value that professional teams provide.
But also now stick their fingers in how you make your content as well.
Yeah. So now they are forcing teams to come up with their own ways. And let me just tell you this, guys. The bread and butter way that teams sell sponsorships is, sure, they'll do custom content. Custom content is the most expensive part of doing a sponsorship. You sell the logo and you're like, this is where I make profit. Okay. And I maybe break even on the custom content angle. That's true at LFN too. I'm not going to, when we sell ads, I don't go out and I don't just go sell custom content with no ads on our podcast, because that's where we actually have the margin for profit. Yeah. Just like with the teams, the profit margin comes from the advertising, from being on jersey logos or other associations with the main broadcast. Just like Team Liquid was Team Liquid Honda. That's where the value comes in. It takes no effort from Team Liquid. Sure. We did an episode of that.
Yeah.
No effort from Team Liquid.
That one really blew up, eh?
But you guys know what I mean. Like, the fact is that they're saying you can have betting sponsors, but you must make the content, which costs you money. So are you even going to, break even on this is a great question. And not only that, guys, but I will just tell you this as somebody who has made many deals with betting sponsors. I've worked with betting sponsors on the tournament operations side with Flashpoint. I've worked with betting sponsors on the LFN side. And as Thorin can tell you, we've done a lot of different activations. We've done ad reads on our podcast. We've done live pre-shows, right? We've done social media coverage. I will tell you what the betting companies want. They want the advertisements to be as close to the games that are happening as possible, because that is when people wager on sports before the games start or during the games. And so to say like, oh, well, this team could put out a tweet or a video 3 days in advance is not going to please the betting sponsors. I can just tell you that All of them agree that this is true.
Yeah.
Okay. So you need to come up with different ways in order to do that. And what does that look like if you can't actually interface with the live
Put it
broadcast?
this way, in an ideal world, what a betting company would want is before your game, when you are doing the pre-match interview, the player or the coach or whoever does it says, thanks for that, Riot. And by the way, to all of our fans out there, go and fucking sign up to gamblingsite.com and place a bet on this game that's about to happen now because we're going to win it. And that would.
I'll tell you what they want even more than that, Richard. What they want is Cadril, who is a Fnatic streamer, to have a betting sponsor with Fnatic, and Cadril is betting on his stream during the matches while he is co-streaming. That is what they want. I mean, that is the holy grail for betting sponsors.
There was like a number of gambling sponsorships I got offered, and again, think of the fucking difference in scale between me and Cadril, right? And it's like,
but it doesn't matter. A co-streamer, anybody who could co-stream would be ideal.
They all wanted, the thing like, oh, can you go on the website and can you like place the bets and it's like, and I used to say I don't know about that. That to me is something that I like wouldn't necessarily be willing to do. I might, for me, if you said to me, who's going to win this game, and I give you my picks. Now that's fine. I think
sure.
I think
it also fits in with the analysis that we frequently do on our
call
streams
winners and losers
shows,
all the time, right? So I mean, like if I'm just doing that within a betting context, I can get up to that line. Actually, sitting there and sort of explaining like you're a little old lady on the library computer for the first time, right? And what you do is you go here and you type in, not too much. Remember to gamble responsibly. But because I'm playing my house money and I haven't disclosed that, I'm going to put £10,000 on this game. Let's fucking go, I'm not doing that. Like that's definitely dodge, So but yeah, you're right.
Anyway, this is all to say that Riot has released some very bizarre and frankly very inefficient ways, and so they are presenting this as though the teams have pressured them, I'm sure, because many of these teams have Counter-Strike, rosters. Many of them, every team wants betting sponsors. Period. It's a lucrative form of income in a world where teams are hurting for money. And honestly, guys, if this had happened fully and it had happened sooner, I bet we would have seen more pushback against the Saudis, frankly.
Put it this way. If the Saudis had come in and weren't essentially underwriting the cost of running teams in certain esports, which has allowed these orgs to expand in ways they couldn't have conceived of ordinarily, let's say the Saudis said, you have to get rid of your gambling sponsors. That could have been the only thing I think that would have made them take a stand, and of course, then they would have morally, have been like grandstanding.
But they would have, I think, been more resistant to the Saudis if they had betting sponsors in like League and Valorant. It's a possibility. It's a possibility.
I mean, it again, it is like the classic fucking, the two kaiju fucking fighting while everyone, But it's crazy to think that pretty much every time this money has come into this space, Riot are the one company that have always sort of said initially, we're too good for it. You have to remember as well, they did this with the Saudi thing a little bit. They didn't explicitly say it, but do you remember when the Astralis slot was being sold? The other buyer was meant to be Falcons, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was actually removed. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, again, from my understanding, from talking to people in the scene, I'm not a league aficionado like you two, but I mean, like, I heard that they essentially got rebuffed, and for whatever reason, I mean, Riot's reasons are Riot's reasons. But I mean, for me, I would, at that time,
it's probably because Riot does require disclosure of ownership, and Falcons probably said no.
I mean, Valve.
That's my guess.
Valve say they do, and then Falcons.
No, but Riot really does. Riot really does.
Yeah, which is fair. I mean, you got to give them props for that, I guess. But yeah, they've always said, oh, we don't really like that. We don't think that's a good idea for our esport. We've got a young audience. We've got to preserve the viewership experience and the fan experience. And all this, and then they just go and end up, fast forward 10 years, and they're doing the thing they said they never do.
Let me read a section of this article, and then I'm going to unleash you guys because it's just so fucking funny. Because like now that we've kind of talked about what they're doing, let's talk about why they say they're doing it, which is very confusing. So here we go. There is literally a segment of this article that says, why sports betting and why now? Obvious questions. I'm going to read. We know sports betting isn't for everyone and that some fans have strong feelings about it, and we respect that. How do you respect that?
Yep.
What? However, the reality is that betting activity already exists around our sports and will continue whether we engage with it or not.
True.
As we said earlier, it exists because you allow it to exist and have always allowed it to exist. And actually, it won't continue if you stop engaging with it. It just won't. You could just cut off all access to the tournament realm and it won't exist. Just won't. Historically, this has been a restricted sponsorship category, and Riot has not engaged with betting companies. Teams have asked us to reconsider our stance, and after years of analysis to ensure we got it right, we agreed it was time to open up this category to create more revenue opportunities for teams. Sports betting, and more specifically, esports betting, is a space that more fans choose to engage with every year. According to Sport Radar, the total betting turnover globally involving just LoL Esports and VCT reached $10.7 billion in 2024. But here's the problem. 70% of bets across all sports are placed in unregulated markets with bookmakers who aren't licensed. We believe it's better to engage in allowing betting sponsorships thoughtfully, carefully, and with the right protections than to sit on the sidelines while risks to fans and integrity go unchecked. Now, before I unleash you guys, I will just point out that the section is called Why Sports Betting and Why Now? And they don't answer either of those questions within that section. They don't answer them. And also, if they are pretending that the answer is it's better to engage thoughtfully, carefully, with the right protections, why couldn't you have done this earlier? That doesn't explain why now. There's nothing that has changed that allows you to do this now. And you just say, we've been analyzing this for years, and then you provide no analysis. So it's all bullshit. So continue. You guys take shots.
I mean, even the way they did that, like, look at I always love the phrasing when Riot do it, because Riot always does that phrasing where, like, what's funny is this is something on Summoning Insight we've done many, many times. Richard's done it with his reporting. The weird thing about Riot is the one area you can actually sort of motivate them to take action is if you shame them for being wrong, because what they always do is they go, thank you for bringing that up. You won't believe it, but actually we've already had internal discussions. And we, in fact, on some level, we always thought that was wrong. But just coincidentally, right, when you've mentioned it, we've also just changed our public stance on that. By the way, I even do think on a soft power level, we might have done that with that TFT win trading episode. They did a whole competitive ruling saying this is over. We've done the investigation. By the way, we won't be doing an investigation like this again. Then we did that episode. They were like, wait a minute, what's this? I've just uncovered a whole load of new evidence. And they actually reversed the decision. So similarly, when I go look at this phrasing, Monty, this, as you say, this gives the illusion that you're addressing why you didn't do it in the past, as you then explicitly don't address that. So think about this part here, where you start out and you say all this stuff, we know sports betting isn't for everyone, we respect that. You keep going down. Historically, this has been a restricted sponsorship category, and Riot has not engaged with betting companies. Then this sentence is just absolute brain rot. It goes, teams have asked us to reconsider our stance. So pause, you're acknowledging you had a stance that was different. By the way, it's implied, but you don't say it, that you thought it was wrong. You thought this shouldn't be in your space. That's why you restricted it. So then when you say teams have basically said, we don't agree, can you think about it again? They go, and after years of analysis to ensure we got it right, we agreed it was time to open this up. With that, listen, what you just said there is like I'm being tortured psychologically in Guantanamo Bay now. Like, it can't be that you thought it was wrong before, and it's only now when someone says, can you reconsider, that you then simultaneously always were thinking about it and sort of were coming to this conclusion.
Yeah, anyway. Why were they doing years of analysis on something that was wrong?
It's so silly, because in this scenario, why would you need the teams to tell you then? By your own logic, you were just about to fucking have the light bulb go off on your head anyway. So it's just the classic Riot.
Can you imagine being married to a Riot executive?
I know. The gaslighting is crazy, isn't it? I know.
It's like
nuts.
You know what I mean? Like, you would just be like, no, listen, I've always thought you look good like that.
It's mad, isn't it? I know. But gaslighting is so crazy.
No, it is but it's what they always do. And look, I mean, for me, the other thing, the other kind of I guess pathology could be a word in a way. What makes it a classic Riot decision? What Riot always do, and so many cases of this, you have something, right? You have something whatever it is, and you exist in esports and you have that, and then you say to Riot Games, look, we can have a mutually beneficial partnership because I am an esports organization and I have all of these things, and we could have a team and we would advertise your game and create that aspirational element via our fans. And then we would, work it all out. But then we get exposure for our sponsors. Your league gets exposure. Yeah. The rising tide raises all ships. And Riot go, yeah, that's great. But that thing you've got, you can't have that and have us. You can't have it. And so there's, what are we going to do? All right, Riot, we've decided we'll get rid of the thing. And they're really sad about it because they like that thing, right? But needs must as the devil drives. It's better to be in with Riot and not have the thing than have the thing and be in Riot's bad books. So they get rid of the thing. Then you fast forward 5 years later, 6 years later, 10 years later, and Riot go, you can have your thing back. How fucking great are we? But I had the thing. I had the thing, and now the version of the thing you're giving me hasn't had the benefit of 5, 6, 10 years of nourishment by me, the person that loved and cherished the thing I had. So no, you are not great, Riot. You are not benevolent. You are fucking Ozymandias. You know what I mean? Like, you are killing, or you are killing a city to save humanity. It's mental. Like, they do this all the time. Organizations had good deals with betting sponsors. They had really good deals, and I know some of the details of these deals. We are talking millions. We are talking mega money.
Sure, yeah, of course.
And the only thing that can chip away at that total is when a new development occurs. And a new development, like, we can't show the logo on the single biggest broadcast we are going to be on. That is a big deal. That is, everyone has to get around the fucking table again. That is sometimes,
and by the way, again, I'll just point this out. Since every dickhead who's currently trying to defend Riot on all these topics has currently put their battle flag, I'm going to defend the hill, that just because they allow the EWC adverts doesn't mean they're connected to them. That's just an advert. Then why can't I have a betting sponsor on that same segment? What would be qualitatively different about me advertising the Esports World Cup, which has all these human rights things associated with it, and the negatives that come along with betting? Like, why is one okay and one is not? Except here's the thing, as you say, Richard, it's only not okay now because Riot also does the fucking boil the frog slowly, and they just gradually warm you up to it, and then eventually one day the idea is everything. The joke is it will just eventually be, and here's the flip. Spot bet Baron player. It'll be all that. But as usual, we can't just go straight to that because we have to do this sing on dance that Riot would never was naked, and these really are new banging clothes from Venice or whatever. Like, we always have to do the same shit every time, don't we?
Obviously, just like FTX, there will be a Riot betting sponsor at some point in time. Like, obviously, like, it's very clear where this is going.
There is absolutely a zero chance that they haven't already had the talks with prospective companies. I would be amazed. And it's like I say, get ready. Look, by the way, I wanted to say this earlier as well, guys, because we were like mocking people going, and this is the fucking MVP of the thing. I've done that. I've sat in that chair and said it is the Buffalo Wild Wings.
It's the job.
Yeah. It's the job. When you're the host, you do that shit, right? So whatever, right? And by the way, Buffalo Wild Wings, sick sponsor. Loved them. Loved eating for free at B-Dubs. That was fucking great, right? But anyway. But so what will end up happening is it will bleed into the broadcast, and Duncan's right. It's boiling the frog. I mean, look, nobody minds a few sponsored segments. But let me tell you, and I won't name the company name just in case anyone... I know people who work on a very successful esports broadcast where they have watched the show essentially be, altered into, you don't actually say anything of substance in the desk. You are just filling airtime, not to get to the game, to get to the next sponsor read almost. And you know how, like, demoralizing that is as a creative person. It's really tough, but that's what will end up happening to, by the way, we already know from their fucking choices, they don't value the analysis desk. It's going to be filled with this shit now. It's going to be the fucking, I don't even know the names of betting sites, but the Bet365 fucking replay brought to you by Ray Winston. And then it's going to be, fucking, there'll be something else, and then there'll be something else, and then there'll be something else. And, and then just before we go to the game, let's take a quick look. What do Bet365 have to say about this? And then you'll look at the odds and bars and graphics. It's coming, and I know it's coming because I watch sports all the time, and that's what you sit through now. That's what you sit through. The only thing that actually is pure in a real sports broadcast is the analysis desk, actually. It's that, what you see on the screen while the game's happening and the advertisements either side and at half time. It's just non-stop gambling shit. So that's what Riot are going to do, and trust me, they're going to get paid a pretty penny for doing it. This is like for the gambling websites out there to circumnavigate the orgs to get direct advertising with Riot on the broadcast instead of doing it via a logo placement or whatever. It's the fucking dream. It's a holy grail.
And here's the thing is that Riot is, as we mentioned earlier, getting their beaks wet on this too, because here's the thing is that they are still going to get paid from this, from vetting the sponsors, right? Now, you may ask yourself, why would Riot Games, a developer, be uniquely capable of examining whether a betting company's licenses, business practices are industry standard? What are the standards? What is the gold standard? Do these companies adhere to it? Obviously, they're not qualified to do that.
Oh. See, you say that, Monty, but the way I would phrase it is I would write, integrity isn't something Riot can uphold alone. It's a shared responsibility across the entire... Even the framing of that is so mental. Why would I assume you, who made a shit Dota clone, would be an expert about vetting whether this company is legitimate in betting? Like, I don't know if these motherfuckers just never met a lane they wouldn't swerve into. It's mental.
And by the way, it won't be Riot vetting this. So what is so sinister... I mean, there's several more sinister things about this, is that they have something here where they said...
by the way, we forgot to mention, Monty, this isn't on LOL Esports. This is on the dreaded riotgames.com, a website none of us have ever gone to except to read these things and remote on the show.
They hide news they don't want people to see on riotgames.com. So basically, they say they're going to build on our established partnership with Grid. And they say, for a digital-first sport like esports, using clean official data is critical to weakening black markets and stopping shady operators from taking advantages of fan and pros. That's why in 2023, we established a global partnership and investment in Grid. Very crucial word here. Now, I don't know. That sounds to me like they now own part or all of Grid, which, by the way, is disturbing in and of itself, because that means if they have ownership in Grid, they now have data from other tournament organizers in other esports, which is fucked up.
And it would also mean then, Monty, if, as I alluded to, this will be another episode, it ever turned out Grid was involved with match fixing, now Riot would have a direct responsibility to do something about it. They're somehow connected to that company. By the way, if I had to guess, Monty, it might not even be that they have the controlling interest. They might even have, the 39% ownership, whatever you need to get optically round it. But just
I did not know this.
One extra middleman in it. I know.
I don't think they would use the word investment if they didn't mean that they didn't own part of the company. Now, here's the other question.
It is an equity stake. It's explicit. It's been.
Why? I also don't even understand why they would reveal that information in this article. Like, why would they say that? Is another crazy thing, because that could just be totally kept secret. By the way, guys, so that's wild that they wouldn't say that. So any potential betting partner must use Grid to power their offerings, the thing they own, of course, ensuring consistency, integrity, and accountability across the board. So basically, they're not going to take money from vetting the betting companies. What they will do is they will use Grid to vet the betting company, and then they will charge Grid money, but they also own part of Grid. So they're basically actually just having a middleman that they at least partially, if not entirely, own, vet the betting companies so that they can get paid the kickbacks from vetting the betting companies, but they don't have to do it, and they don't have to ultimately be responsible for it. So if the vetting goes wrong, they can just blame Grid, which they partially or entirely own. I mean, this is a really fucked up situation. And I mean, it's basically Grid is a useful middleman for them to distance themselves from liability. And that's about it, and responsibility. But basically, they will be getting the money. So Grid will charge the betting companies to vet them, is what's going to happen. So if I'm a betting company, I have to go to Grid, pay Grid money, and then Grid pays Riot money.
And by the way, the obvious angle to point in here is, I would like you to tell me if I am legitimate. I will, of course, be paying you for the honour. Oh, thank you. You have found I am legitimate when I have paid the Platinum Plus tier of vetting. Here is your bag of laundry. Like, do you see the obvious conflict of interest here, guys? You're literally saying, like, the police are getting paid by the criminals to tell them if they're criminals or not. Like, I wonder if there's any or possibility for abuse with such a system.
So, I mean, this whole scenario is entirely insane. And like, I don't understand really why they would be admitting some of these things in this article, or what they appear to be admitting. Perhaps they made poor choices of words. But also, this is very similar to Riot, how Riot has behaved in the past. So, for example, one of the massive mistakes that Riot made of League of Legends in North America was when they invested money in a company called PlayVersus, and then gave PlayVersus the exclusive rights to run high school League of Legends competitions in North America. And PlayVersus has an entirely different management now that I think is far superior, but the management at the time was highly incompetent, and it basically killed young people's interest in League of Legends, which then killed viewership and player base for League of Legends within North America. So they have this playbook of they invest in company, they give exclusivity to said company, and pray that this company is not moronic. Which, to be fair, Grid is not a dumb company, in my experience of working with them. But when we look at this, too, they also hide other things. So they say that they're going to support and foster the Tier 2 esports ecosystem. And they say sponsorships are only available to Tier 1 LoL esports and VCT teams. But the program will support the growth and advancement of our Tier 2 esports team. A portion of Riot's revenues earned from the sports betting program. Well, how are they making revenue? They never said how they are making revenue from this. And the answer is they are charging betting companies for vetting indirectly through Grid. Okay?
I mean, that's the racket, though.
But like, how can they say that the revenue made is going to go, part of it, into the Tier 2 ecosystem to support it, without actually being explicit about how they are making the money?
Also, by the way, again, just to foreshadow, it's actually match fixing explicitly in Tier 2 esports, which is the most out of control. And the ultimate way to do it is via feeds from companies like Grid.
Yeah.
So, again, you've sort of made your own problem worse there on that one.
I mean, look, just to put my cards on the table there, I mean, as somebody that's investigated so much match fixing and, for the purposes of not even articles at this point, more just like a morbid fascination with the topic, there's a lot of overlap between, Grid as a partner, and I've always, and some of these tournaments that are like, I'm talking about the tournaments that are compromised entirely. I'm not talking about one or two games, some people conspire. I'm talking about tournaments where, maybe 80% of the entire games are compromised in some way. And I've always strongly suspected, but never been able to prove one way or another, that there's likely a rogue employees or something, but like you said, the Grid streams, the real time feeds, they're how people in Counter-Strike in particular seem to be able to cheat in a game, because essentially you get a wall hack, where everyone is on the radar or whatever. And I've had a few people say, like, we've had access to this feed. So, it's crazy to me that you're just going to say...
To be fair to Grid, in Counter-Strike, it is possible that the tournament operator could also be leaking.
Correct. I mean, look, the other aspect to it as well is, I mean, there's some of these, some commentators... the casters have a live feed of the game, obviously, for the purposes of commentary. And yeah, they might stream it with a delay, but they're obviously doing it in real time. Otherwise, how the fuck would it work? And so I know for a fact that commentators from certain regions sell that clean feed access to teams participating in the tournament. And I know the rates. I know the going rate if you're from, this country, that country. I know what they're charging. So, I mean, look, all of which is to say, you've got this... data company. It's not to impugn Grid. I'm not saying Grid have a baked-in match-fixing component to their business. That would be absurd. What I'm saying is, though, where there are these live feeds,
it takes one bad actor within the company.
All it takes is one bad actor, correct? And so for Riot to be talking about safeguards to competitive integrity, unfortunately, what we know coming from the Counter-Strike world, the genie is out the bottle. If you're going to have a live feed offered by a data company, an analytics partner, then there is going to be match fixing via that mechanism.
And also, immediately before Riot made this announcement was Sean Gare's accusations in Valorant that the tier 2 scene of Valorant is entirely compromised by betting.
To this because we are going to do an episode with Sean. He's ready to come on at some point. And I mean, look, you guys have talked about this. Sean's always been a bit willfully naive about how shit esports is. He's a very bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, enthusiastic, positive, lovely human, And this has been a very, I don't want to say traumatic, because that's like overselling it, but I think it's been a very, like,
eye-opening.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but worse than, right? Like, because it's like, listen, you can open your eyes and see something and be a little bit wiser, but if you're in the fucking Hellraiser cube and everything that you're being shown is fucking, like Event Horizon, it's going to break you down. And, like, I think it's been a tough time for fucking Sean,
Sure.
And here's the reality. The thing that's probably upset him most, and I don't want to speak on his behalf, so we'll see when he has the episode, but is the fact, ostensibly in this matter of match fixing, Sean is the whistleblower, and yet he has had no protection whatsoever from the company that would benefit from a whistleblower, and also has had to jump through an inordinate amount of hoops just
it's even implied he might have actually had reprisals from them for doing it, for speaking out.
No, and so to link it to what we're talking about on this episode, I cannot believe that these two things aren't linked, because I know how Riot
The timing
operates.
is crazy, isn't it?
I have always had a good handle on who Riot are right from the start. Like I say, when they came into the scene right at back in 2009, 2010, and they were giving everyone gifts and, skin codes and, hey, wear this t-shirt, man. We're cool. Why are you all wearing red t-shirts and are behaving like a cult? Don't think about it, guys. Just take the t-shirts and promote our game.
Fist bump. We don't shake hands, fist bump.
We don't shake hands. We're Rioters, fist bump. That's why we have the fist bump. When they were doing all that, I said, guys, like, this company's bad news.
You'll appreciate this, Richard. When I was working with Riot and they would try and fist bump me, I would literally just grab their fist and shake it.
Not like that.
It's like, why are you doing this? Can you interact like a normal adult, please?
It is crazy, man. Like, I mean, by the way, the reason they do that is that's how they fucking measure your thetans or whatever the fuck they're called. Like, but anyway, so like I knew straight away who they were. They were created as a company by, like I said, the unholy marriage of investment banking and corporate marketing. And then they threw in data science and psychology with a nutcase, with Jeffrey Light Lynn, and that was the trifecta that built Riot. How's that ever going to be good? How's that ever going to be good? All they did, by the way, this pioneering company, they took a model that was in existence in Asia that wasn't popular in the West and just introduced Westerners to it. That's like me. I don't know, bringing a breed of animal back from a continent and go, look what I invented. You know what I mean? Like, no, I didn't. I just picked it up and put it in a cage and brought it back on a boat.
Did you know that the Europeans invented horses and brought them to the native?
Exactly. We made them in a Yakubian style. We made them in a lab.
There's just some conquistador being like, I invented this.
So I knew immediately who Riot Games were, and it's true to form. Put it this way: when I've been wrong on a bunch of stuff historically down the years, obviously, because I'm a human being, and that happens. When it comes to Riot's intentions and how they operate, I've never been wrong. I know I've never been wrong. So I can read them like a book. And so I will tell you unequivocally, Duncan, these two things are linked. Because if you imagine you've just agreed... Right, so first of all, I'm investing in Grid. I've expanded my investment. I have an equity stake in the leading data analytics company. And by the way, what are they getting? What's the reciprocity? Well, here it is, man. They now have access to they're the exclusive data partner for Valorant and everything that entails for their business, right? Specifically in the press release, it said that. So I do that. By the way, we also know that live streams are problematic and it's a vector for match fixing and cheating. So, okay. And so you do that. And then just as you're about to announce that we are rolling out new regulations around betting partners with a view to us maybe as Riot Games having a betting sponsor in the future on our broadcast, there is a massive Valorant match fixing scandal with one of the most beloved people in the center of it trying to expose it.
Essentially like a fucking Hardy boy. Like, guys, there's all criminal behavior going on here. Arrest them, coppers. Like, not even someone that you can even like
so it's just Johnny Quest.
I know, exactly. The worst person to try and denigrate.
And what Sean never realized was, like, and what I'll tell him when we do the episode is, you're that guy at the start of Invasion of the Body Snatchers that he drives past who's shouting in the streets, they're everywhere, they're pod people, they're not real people, and you go, look at that ticket, no, yeah, that's what's happening, the pod people are real, man, they've been here the whole time, everybody knows match fixing's going on, everybody knows gambling has this, like, adjacent underbelly that's not, like, great for anything, certainly not great for sports, but it's the cost of doing business, so we're all just going to make the money, and we're all just going to push things forward, and that's how that's going to go. And like, he's waking up to that reality. It's been very tough for him. But like, so Riot Games have absolutely, one of the things they wouldn't do.
And it's important to note that there is money in this, right?
Yes.
Because if this was, Riot must hate his timing on the announcement,
yes.
Because Riot says this: we are vetting the betting companies and they must be approved. And then, but we are doing it so you have to be vetted for us to say that you can sponsor a team.
Yep.
And then the question is, well, then they announced that they're making revenue. Riot is making revenue from this somehow, which will then be put into tier 2.
Here's the other little extra detail, Monty, as to why I know these two things are linked. Because again, this is all I look at in my spare time.
Sure.
So, right, if I am match fixing, okay, I'm a match fixer. Well, how am I doing that? Because it's not cash in hand and brown envelopes sliding across the table here and there. No, I bet on myself, or I get a proxy to do it for me.
Yep.
I have to use a site to do it. Right? Now, if there's a big match fixing scandal with betting slips, let's say, oh no. Now we know which site is essentially complicit in match fixing by not cancelling the action on those compromised games. Because, by the way, guys, the data tools they have behind the scenes are mental. They can see a money line jump up. By the way, there's probably like a fucking bat signal that goes out for some analytics like nerd. Like, we've just had a flurry of strange suspicious bets 20 minutes before the game's about to go live. Shut it down, and they just press the fucking button and that's it. And all the money goes back into everyone's accounts because they don't want to lose. They don't want to get got. They don't want people to beat the bookies, right? They don't to beat the money line. So when they don't do that, essentially they're saying it's the cost of doing business. So imagine if Sean's investigation or a subsequent journalist investigation into Sean's claims revealed that a number of these sites were actually compromised. And then let's say Riot had vetted those companies and found them to be not compromised and a perfect partner, not because of any other reason except the check that they're signing for us. Wouldn't that be terrible for business? Wouldn't that be, I believe, terrible optics? You know, the thing that Riot care about more than anything, more than their own children when they go home at night. I don't know if I can read you a bedtime story tonight, son. Have you thought about the optics of it? This is right. So
I know I just sold millions of dollars to the Saudis for sports washing, but good night, my daughter. I won't think about those children, those girls who are being married at the age of 13 to Saudi men.
Listen,
that was what that guy at the top of Savvy did say. He was like, I've got daughters of my own.
I know,
And if I thought they were bloody doing anything over there against women, it's like, they are!
Yeah, I know.
They totally are.
They just are, dude. Like, so anyway, the timing of this couldn't have been worse from a Riot perspective, because if you would have everybody in the community saying, wait, we're announcing gambling sponsors, but we've just realised that all of Tier 2 Valorant is completely compromised. So what are we going to do? You have to fix that problem before we start allowing official betting on that, right? And so they've gone, nah. One of the problems Sean has ran into is they haven't wanted to engage with him, with what he's saying. They don't want to listen. They certainly don't want to do an investigation. By the way, still waiting on the investigation about Danny. Is that finishing anytime soon? We all meme on the fucking ESIC investigation, which obviously is never going to get finished because they bit off way more than they could chew on that one, right? But like, we've got the Danny one.
Remember all the people who told us, Richard, actually, the reason why us, the dirty, evil hateful, stinky right-wing people, apparently, who investigated, and, as a result, that makes us a tainted source. We didn't need to do it because Riot was investigating it anyway, Richard, so I'm sure they were going to find the conclusions themselves. But it's now 3 years ago.
It's 3 years ago, and Nicole isn't even in esports anymore. But,
I know. I don't know what you would achieve at this point.
No, I'm sure they will finish it at some point. But so they don't want to do the investigation. By the way, this is Riot in a nutshell. Riot, if they were a normal functional company and not a fucking cult, they wouldn't hate Richard Lewis. They would actually have probably found some way to shit, man, you're really good at exposing all of these people. All these stories you've done about bad managers and bad contract deals and shit player conditions and match fixing. You're actually the type of person we should be employing. I don't know what title we'd give you, but you could help work adjacent to us and help us catch these people with you. No, they fucking hate me. They hate every time they've had to put out a press release about a story I've published, like TSM, a manager literally stealing a fucking car from a player in some sort of insane fucking kickback scheme, right? They hate that when I expose this stuff. But they never mention me in the disciplinary rulings. They never link to the work in the disciplinary rulings. As Duncan said, Riot already knew about those things, guys, because they're Riot. Nothing escapes their attention. Richard Lewis can't know something Riot doesn't know, and they were already on it. They were investigating it from the start, and it's just coincidentally that 5 days after Richard Lewis's article was published, we've got a competitive ruling about that very topic. So this is what I mean. So when it comes to this, they are these things are absolutely linked. They have never wanted the scandal or the stink around their games, whatever it might be, whether it's dodgy managers
by the way, there's another thing,
sex
Richard,
weirdos.
Even though it was always the stupidest move you could ever do, it would be like in politics, which they do all the time themselves, being like, I can't believe your side's got a sexual scandal. It's that's going to come back for you anytime.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that boomerang's always coming back.
Bloody hell.
But in this case,
that Bill Clinton is a rapist, said the Republican.
But I do think, for real, that is also a part of the stupid conceit Riot is playing to here, which is the whole time, it's not just that famous Reddit thread about the Saudis. There has always been this holier-than-thou stink of hey, we're not like that bloody Wild West of CS, we're like skins and fucking gambling, man, and what, the Saudis? There's always been this, we're the upper-class people who wouldn't, deign to reach to those depths. But as we say, they just do the fucking slow tiptoe approach, and eventually they're down in the muck with all of us, where they always were going to be inevitably by the end. But they have to just pretend they descended from the heavens to do so for some reason.
Well, no, but here's the difference. You see, when they arrive in the muck and the filth, right, we've been erecting a society down here, a functional society, right, where we have rules that we don't cross, and we've got leaders, and it's like Valve. It's like a flat company, with not one person's in charge. But then Riot,
sort of like Demolition Man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
not a bad reference there.
Riot,
that's a bit of a deep thought.
Riot drop into the muck, and then they go, right, we run this shit. Yeah,
except in this case, Dennis Leary's the good guy. Richard,
that's never true. That's never true, is it, Dennis Leary? by the way, the only way MBS could be redeemed in my eyes would be if Dennis Leary was arrested for crimes against comedy.
Executed him, of course.
in a video game in Minecraft, of course.
If in a video game he executed Dennis Leary at the opening ceremony of Esports World Cup 2026, Richard will be like, what the hell? Now I love this.
The Saudi Arabia video game sounds really boring.
What's blood cooking here? But anyway, this is just a fucking reality that they get into the muck and they turn around. They go, we run the muck now with the kings of the muck. Bow before, we've got a whole thing going on here. Your rules don't matter down here in the fucking muck and the shit. If anything, you should be asking us, can we fucking posse up with you and you show us how this works? They never do it. They arrive into spaces where they believe they've got all of the answers to all the problems, which, by the way, people have solved the problems. We've solved so many problems. And then Riot go, that solution? We don't like that solution. So get rid of that solution. The problem's back. Bloody hell, these problems. Then 5 years later, again, they roll out the same solution we all came up with ages ago. And they go, look, it's like, you didn't turn on Twitch subs at the height of LCS. And then you put out a press release going, we're finding new ways to engage with fans. Have you all heard about Twitch subs? Twitch is dying on its arse now, you dickheads.
That was last year.
You are a decade too late. And that is actually being fucking generous, you mad cunts. So this is just who they are. This is who they are. It's going to be no different with the betting.
Also, they knew exactly how much money OGN was making off of Twitch subs to broadcast a league in their game in 2012 and 2013. They knew how much money OGN was making, and they suddenly decided 12 years later that this was a good idea.
Also, I'll add this little point into it as well. This notion that Duncan was talking about Riot's ability to vet, right?
Who the fuck are they?
I mean, what are we even talking about when we say that? Right? Like what does that actually entail? What is the process? What does it look like? Who's doing it? What are we looking for? Because
what are the standards?
Yeah. What are the standards? What are the criteria? Right? The problem I have with it is this is a company that couldn't vet itself. It couldn't vet itself. You had a bunch of fucking tyrants and monsters. You paid $100 million. It is on the record. It's not that you paid that money and admitted no wrongdoing. It wasn't that kind of settlement. It was, we are just a monstrous sexist company and we've treated women horrendously and here's $100 million for the victims. It was all explicit. It was explicitly stated. You couldn't vet yourself. I don't care how much Mark Merrill cried at that fucking town hall. Right? You couldn't vet yourself. And by the way, there are a million stories about these red t-shirt wearing motherfuckers that hasn't come out yet. Of course, it's a closed loop. They are a psychopathic company. And so I want you to get your house in order. I want you to fire the people I know are fucking bad people, bad faith actors that do bad things that you still employ at your company. Then we'll talk about vetting. Go a year without some sort of fucked up scandal in your ecosystem, in your orbit. Then we'll talk about vetting. But until then, like, you're not fit to do.
But that's just the code word they're using for receiving money.
It's cool. Yeah. I mean, essentially,
because you'll notice that they say they're doing the vetting. And then they say the revenue that goes to Riot, which is like, there's only two possibilities here for the revenue that goes to Riot, which is either you are getting paid for vetting these companies because that's creating revenue for Riot, or you are taking a cut of the team deals because you said the entire purpose of opening up betting categories was to not have them on your broadcast, but to have the teams get them. So which is it? Are you taking a cut of the team's revenue, or are you charging betting companies for vetting? Because that's the only thing that explains the revenue that you say Riot is making to put into tier 2. Riot should not be making revenue in this scenario.
No, definitely not.
You said this was for the teams.
But I mean, look, the other.
Why are you making money?
The other point to this is they have this thing in that statement where they say you have that we are going to mandate team integrity checks, right?
What does that mean?
Right. It says here, as part of our broader sponsorship guidelines, we've established a requirement for teams to create and assess their own internal integrity program, one that aligns with our expectations to A, ensure competitive integrity, B, safeguard players and new audiences, C, uphold responsible betting practices. And then it goes, integrity isn't something Riot can uphold alone. By the way, that's just another...
I love even the... no one was ever saying you could. I don't know why you think that would be our base assumption, that only you could do it.
But that's just so hilarious, given the match fixing.
Why are we
Sean
always
Gayers
the lepers and they're always Jesus just reaching down, giving us their power?
It's like Sean Gayers is there going, look, I've uncovered all of this people breaking integrity. I am trying to uphold the integrity of Valorant. Shut up, Sean. Shut up, Sean. We're not hiring you anymore. Shut up. You're an inconvenient dickhead. Go back to Counter-Strike. Right? So, you definitely can't uphold it alone. You can't even uphold it in a partnership because you don't want people to notice that there's integrity issues. Anyway, it goes on. Teams pursuing betting partnerships.
The irony being, though, if you think about it, because supposedly one of the reasons he actually did like co-streaming for the majors, they wouldn't give him viewership rights, Monty, for VCT. Yeah. So the joke is now Sean Gayers is the only person they won't give a clean feed to.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. He's done it. So,
a little too on the nose.
Yeah. So teams pursuing betting partnerships must have established an integrity program inclusive of policy development, monitoring, and education. They must also assess if this, like all of the partnerships, makes sense for their brand and fans. So they are asking the teams that are going to compete in this ecosystem. I'm going to take that off again because I'm sweating. We're having a heat wave here, Monty. I don't know if you're aware, but so my glasses are just sliding all over my face. I'm so greasy and sweaty. But anyway, what they're saying there is that it's your job, if you have a betting partnership, to educate the fans about betting and how to uphold responsible betting practices. You know, like there's always that thing like hashtag ad, hashtag bet responsibly. We've done the whole bet responsibly fucking commercials. They have to now show them as part of the advertising. If you agree to advertise your betting services, you have to like, this is a UK thing, you have to like run an ad explaining like 5 rules to like, you know, not get addicted. Like, oh, take a break, make the bets fun. And it's just garbage just so they can advertise their betting platform. But anyway, they want the esports orgs to do that now. But you know who won't be doing that?
Riot themselves.
Riot Games won't be doing any of that.
Yeah, they were. By the way, if they're the ones that are experts about vetting, wouldn't they be the perfect people to do these educational videos?
Right. So you know? there isn't going to be
if they're so confident in their ability to vet betting companies and they'll let the teams have it, why don't they just have a betting sponsor?
Well, I mean, it's coming.
If it's fine, if you're telling me it's fine,
it's coming, and when it comes, they will not do any of that. They are not going to have a segment where it's like Shocks is going to give you 5 tips to not get addicted to gambling. You know, it's not going to happen. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do any of those things. It's going to be the usual throw away hashtag bet responsibly. But the pressure they'll put on the esports org, particularly if it's an esports org, they really actually would prefer didn't have a slot in their league anymore. The inconvenient ones that they don't, the legacy ones that have got no money and they stick around and they lose not quite enough to fuck off every year. You know what I mean? They never go under. They're just there, just the malingerers. They're the orgs that like they're going to absolutely crucify on this. You can bet your bottom dollar on that one. They'll hold them to an impossible standard if they have a betting sponsor going, well, where's your video with your team fucking crying because they've lost their money and then saying, don't be like us kids or whatever. Where's that at? Oh, you don't have that, right? Fuck off. They're going to definitely push teams to the brink on that if they don't like them. But yet, when their inevitable betting sponsor arrives, they're not going to hold themselves to that standard. Riot never holds themselves to any appreciable standard, no matter what they say. They just do what they want when they want.
And also, I mean, I linked you guys an article in the Wall Street Journal, which I found interesting because it basically... What's interesting about sports betting now, and if you guys are
glasses go back on, then
want to learn some more about this, go watch our Field of Dreams video where Richard talks about the match fixing scandal from the 1918 World Series. So basically, there's a point in sports where.
By the way, Monty, if you don't know another thing, this is like a side tangent. Another thing, if you're a journalist, that will drive you crazy is a common go-to response by fans to rebut the notion there is cheating or match fixing. Goes, why would they do that? They are pros,
right?
Even though, as we're pointing out, the fucking World Series was done that way. They did the World Series pro.
So it's always about risk versus reward, right? And so in the early days of baseball, obviously they weren't getting paid very much, so the reward for throwing a World Series was very high, and even though the risk was high, it was worth it, right? As sports have legitimized, it became very... when you're making $10 million, $20 million a year, you're not going to throw a game even for $10 million because what the fuck's the point? I have if I'm a basketball player these days, I have a $250 million multi-year contract, right? Like, it's just not worth it. But the thing is that as... in the modern age of computers and instant data like this, betting has become a lot more subtle, I would say. 20 years ago, you couldn't bet on the first pitch of a baseball game, right? In the same way you can now. And what's called spot betting has taken hold. And what the Wall Street Journal points out in this article is that now spot betting is creeping its way, like betting is creeping its way back into major sports with athletes who are getting paid huge amounts of money because the risk is so low on these spot bets. And an example that they give is that there is a pitcher for the Cleveland Guardians named Luis Ortiz, and there were suspicious things about his pitching, such as basically his first pitch in the 3rd inning of this game was a slider into the dirt. And basically, that's not weird in the context of a pitcher, right? Because it's not statistically weird for a pitcher to occasionally miss a pitch, right? But the problem is that a betting integrity firm basically identified unusual wagering activity on that pitch, right? And it was pretty blatantly like in the dirt. And he had previously done this in a game earlier in the same season. And also, they have now found that there are similar bets that have been, or similar circumstances, such as yellow cards received from professional soccer players, where relatives or friends of the player receiving the yellow card at a specific time in the game were betting on this. So, like, it's almost as if the player said, I'm going to get a yellow card to their family at this point in time, please bet. And so the point is that team sports are difficult to match fix because you need kind of a quorum to, like, you need multiple people typically to fix a team sport. But now what they're saying is a player's action on a single pitch in baseball or a single yellow card, which seems innocuous because pitchers miss pitches and players get yellow cards. There's now, because of spot betting, significant scrutiny, and the betting companies are getting involved. So the point I'm saying is that if you were to get involved and start betting, this is a very dangerous time to do it, because players in professional sports who are paid vastly more and who risk significantly more are doing it. I would say it is almost going to be impossible to stop at a tier 1 level in esports.
The problem here as well is there's obvious plausible deniability for these types of bets, Monty. Like, I'll give you the obvious one that would be the equivalent in League. Who takes the first dragon? Remember, sometimes you even give a dragon up for strategic reasons. It'd be so easy to rig that bet.
How about giving up first blood, Duncan? I just made a misplay. Oh my God, I clicked in the wrong place.
Here's the thing, though. Again, it's like almost like my sweet summer child when you're saying this about League, because we've already had spot fix. I mean, first of all, spot fixing. Probably my first exposure to it would have been in the 90s. Southampton Football Club. It was later revealed they were placing bets on things like first throw in, first yellow card, all that stuff you were just talking about. And they were doing it to excess. I think it was 2012. Chris Lundekvam, who's a Norwegian defender that played for the team, came out and said, yeah, we were doing that. Matt Letizia admitted to doing this, which is the least of his problems now if you listen to the shit that comes out of his mouth. But so it's been around in sports for like ages, and I've always known what it was. But we've already had, so in Dota, there was a player called Tiger. You probably know him, and I believe he said that he was a gambling addict and he got heavy into it, and he ended up owing people money, and they basically said you pay off the debt by fixing games, and he said I don't want to fix games. So essentially, what he ended up doing was he would give away a first blood, and they would bet around the timing of that. So we've already had that. In Counter-Strike, we had the biggest one, the most obvious one I've ever seen, which went like this. Na'Vi had a betting sponsor. It's also the betting sponsor that just so happens to own the team, the org, but we don't talk about that. And they had a super fan who was placing bets on Na'Vi games, and the gimmick was he was like an influencer/streamer type from that region, and he would place bets that basically were wild bets. And so there's a gun in the game of Counter-Strike called the M249. It's a big machine gun. It's unbelievably expensive. It's like $5,200. It's more expensive than an AWP, and it is unbelievably impractical. It's dog shit. Pound for pound, the worst gun in the game probably. And he placed a bet where he was like, I bet that Na'Vi will buy an M249 at some point in this tournament. Right?
Yeah. By the way, I'm going to guess this is like 20-1 odds or something crazy. Right? It'd be something huge.
Yeah, it was mega. And he placed that bet on the betting sponsor's platform that sponsored Na'Vi. And all of the influencers in that region, what have you seen this bloody bet? Bloody hell, it's the last game. It's the last game. Will this guy get his bet? And everyone was interacting with it. Ex-Na'Vi players were interacting with it. And wouldn't you know, in a meaningless round in a game that they were ahead when they had tons of money, they accidentally bloody bought the gun and had to drop it, didn't they? Bloody hell. And everyone was going, oh my God, he got the bet, Na'Vi got the bet. Oh, even the betting platform was going, bloody hell, we got rinsed on this one. Of course, it was all just advertising for them.
I love how shit the kid is.
Right?
Well. So
we got rinsed on this one. And it's like, a Na'Vi player, basically either instructed by a manager or instructed by the sponsor, or a combination of all of those events, maybe even the owner.
It could have been I will take the favorable approach, which if it had been going on for the whole tournament, the Na'Vi players might have just heard about this happening and done it because they were ahead. But regardless, it's manipulating. It's a manipulation of the bet.
Right.
It's a bad look, even if you did, like you said, but it's just because it looks like you were
It is the most nailed-on example of spot fixing you will ever see in esports. It cannot be argued to any degree that it was an accident, given all of the combination of circumstance around it. And yet, do you want to know what happened? I made a video about it, because of course I did. I talked about it. E6 said they were investigating it. Well, we know how that one goes, don't we, now, in 2025? All that came of that was Na'Vi blocked me on Twitter. That was it. That was nobody else talks about it. Nobody called for them to be banned. None of the tournament operators, even the tournament operator that was running the tournament in which it happened, not one of them said this was a bad thing for the industry. Not one of them. It was so obvious what they'd done that everyone just went, well, they do things differently over there, don't they? And that's that. That was it. That was it. So if you think for a second you're not going to get this in League when you can place bets, like, of course you are. Of course you are. I mean, by the way, just one of the little one from the vaults. This is a shorter one. Duncan knows this one too. We already had a beloved Counter-Strike team play a game, and then it wasn't being broadcast until hours later, and they placed bets on that outcome of the game because they knew they won. They themselves placed the bets, knowing they'd won, but knowing nobody else could know that because the game wasn't being shown for 4 hours. Then it got revealed. Somebody had noticed the time of the bet and noticed that it was like essentially a rerun of a game that had already been played. And they just went, yeah, sorry, that was a bit silly of us, wasn't it? No punishment. And they're still a beloved team. And when people like me were going, that's pretty much tantamount to match fixing right there, guys. They were going, nah, it's different. I mean, by the way, there's not even any rules around this stuff, is there, man? Is that right? Is that wrong? That's a bit of a grey area, that one.
Here's the thing. The point I want to bring up is, like, it's obviously not Riot's fault if this happens, and it would happen regardless, right? But the concern is this, which is that if it's their job to vet the betting companies, so the pitcher that I mentioned has been put on leave, on non-disciplinary paid leave, while Major League Baseball investigates. So imagine the same scenario happens. Imagine some player in League of Legends gives up first blood. There's suspicious betting activity around it. The betting sites are like, oh man, this sure is weird that in 3 games this season, this player gave up first blood, and these same people are betting on it, and they appear to be, relations or friends of the player, or, even just the same shady motherfuckers. And they go to Riot. Is Riot going to put the player on leave and investigate the situation if they approved the betting company on which this platform is taking place? Like, where is the punishment going to happen? You know what I mean? What if this player is sponsored by a by a betting company that they vetted? It really brings up a lot of questions about.
We saw with the TFT situation how Riot will handle it.
Yep.
Unless there's an outcry in public that they cannot ignore. And by the way, when it happens, right, and it's going to be a Chinese player probably, because they have lots of problems with gambling and lots of problems with illegal gambling and lots of problems with match fixing that has ties to organised crime. Not the kind of break your thumbs organised crime, the kind of burn your house down, kill your family, shoot you in the face organised crime, right? The actual organised crime, not that. Not that sanitized shit you see on your fucking HBO shows or whatever. Just real nasty people that will go to any lengths to get you to do the things that make them money, which is why I've always been broadly sympathetic to people in certain regions, because if you're going to get disappeared or fucking suicided or whatever it might be, you fix that game, because it's just a video game at the end of the day, and your life is your life.
Yeah, pretty fair. I think you should always make a distinction, I agree, Richard, between someone who literally might even be like compromised by like the team manager in some fucking team house in Asia, and whose own family's being threatened, and then some dilettante middle class white kid who's just like, lol, I'm just doing it for money, I've got the bag. Correct. Like that is there's a key distinction there.
Yeah, and I mean,
even though the crime looks the same.
When I got I got some Snapchats of one of those North American fixes. He never knew that I had them. I've got them. And he was like literally after he was showing the betting slips in the games that were fixed. He was sending them to friends, This is how much of a moron this guy was. Because Snapchat does that auto-delete thing. So he was like, well, they're not going to have any evidence, but they would just take a picture of it with their other phone and hold on to it for, purposes, right?
Damn it, they cracked the tech.
Damn it. Bloody hell. It's like...
No one's figured this out before.
Exactly. So I've got those, and it was exactly what you're talking about, Duncan. They weren't doing it to, like, feed a sick relative or pay the rent or, which, by the way, maybe that's not even a good enough reason to do it. Like I say, gun to your head, do it, right? Fucking not make your mortgage, get a job, sir. Maybe I am unsympathetic like that. Maybe a sick relative, that was the excuse that our friend who, the whole thing happened with TSM. But anyway, he was doing it for sneakers. He was doing it for sneakers. He was a sneakerhead, and he was like saying, "Look, I've got these sick sneakers. That this game paid for these, bro, and it would be some sick. Like I don't know fuck all about sneakers because shoes are just shoes to me. You know what I mean? But like it would be some sick pair of sneakers that would like cost thousands, And it's like, yeah, you're not the same. You're not the same caliber of match fixer. But as I said, when it's China, Riot aren't going to do shit. They're essentially a Chinese company now. That LARPs as being an NA with an NA sensibility, but we all know Big Daddy Tencent can do whatever the fuck it wants, whenever the fuck it wants, which is still hilarious. By the way, we have to write to a congressman in America and explain that all of the concerns you had about TikTok are tenfold with Riot Games because they are owned by China, owned by a Chinese company, which has a legal mandate
they
to
have
cooperate
kernel
with
level
it,
access
and they
to
have kernel level
computer.
access to all these kids' PCs. Right, so like I would love it if we could just all come together. And look, I've been talking about doing this for a year now. I really got to get off my ass and write this letter. But if we could just lobby to get fucking League of Legends banned and Valorant, I guess by extension, in North America, we would have done a great thing. It would be the greatest accomplishment of our lives. Probably it would save so many people. So, but anyway, when it's China, Riot aren't going to do shit. Riot aren't going to do shit. They
also can't, to be fair. It's not like Riot HQ can rock up to Tencent and be like, can you please investigate this?
But it's about more than that.
They have no tools to investigate in China, and Tencent will not allow them to do it.
One of the things I've absolutely noticed in Counter-Strike, for instance, is that when a Chinese team is blatantly fixing to the point where the commentators are even laughing about how blatant it is, the misplays that they are making in order to lose this game. Nobody does anything or says anything. We had an insane situation where a beloved Tai Lu, one of the premier organisations, a beloved Tai Lu player, Captain Mo, he came out and he showed a text conversation between him and what we call a corruptor. Somebody that, they find out your vice or your needs and they offer you the money for the fix and whatever it might be. They corrupt you, essentially. And he was having a conversation with him and he put it out publicly and he said, I am putting this out publicly because I will not be blackmailed into fixing any more games. I was like, what? Any more? What? And when you looked at the conversation of the texts, I had them translated. The guy was saying, you've done it in the past, essentially. Like, why won't you do it now? It was along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But the clear intimation was he'd had a relationship with him prior, that he hadn't knocked on the head instantly, that this person had been having talks and asking him to fix games for a long, long time. And the way that it was worded made it sound that maybe he had indulged. I'm not saying he did. We'll never know. It's irrelevant now. But I'm not saying he did or he didn't. There's no evidence to say he did. But this text makes it sound like he did. And he put that up publicly and everyone went, wow, that guy's so stunning and brave. They're so brave. Get fucked, match fixers. I'm like, are you reading what he's saying in this conversation? And that's the problem, unfortunately, in that area, in that part of the world. That is so high editor. You have been tapped up to fix games. But it's the same in StarCraft and Korea. I'm not singling out China. But like, remember when we all moved into StarCraft 2 from Brood War and Blizzard were basically using the Brood War scandal because everyone had got really disheartened and like, I can't believe it, I love Savior. And everyone was crying about it. And they said, don't worry, new game, fresh start. We were fucking balls deep in match fixing by 2015. It was completely corrupted from the... So guys, just expect it's going to happen and expect what Riot's ideal outcome is. Riot just want it to go away. Whenever anything like this happens, they don't want you to notice. They don't care that it's happening. They will never investigate it independently because nobody does. Yeah,
they don't suspend players, like the MLB
they're
did.
just going to let it occur. And because as long as nobody notices and nobody gets burned, it's fine. It's just the cost of doing business. That is the attitude towards match fixing. That is what I've realized. It's why I just barely talk about it anymore. It really is, no pun intended, Chinatown on this particular issue. You are not going to fix match fixing in esports. It is broken. Esports is fundamentally broken. There are so many mechanisms through which you could stop it tomorrow, all of it, instantly in tier 2, and yet it will never happen because people somewhere are making money. And what's really blackpilling is, do you know that because of the way they limit markets on these betting websites, so in other words, if I bet on an esports game, particularly if I'm a fresh account, I can't place more than $400, let's say, on a game, right? So even if it's fixed and all the evidence is screaming that it is fixed and all the money lines are skewed and 20 accounts from Serbia or Vietnam sign up to the fucking website moments before the game's about to go live, they all bet in one direction and that is the outcome of the game, they let it ride. They let it ride.
Basically, the equivalent of the guy stood over the body with the bloody knife going, I'll get him again next time. Like,
they let it ride. And you know why they let it ride? Because it's just better to have you on that site. It's better to have the customer on the site placing a bet, even if the bet is dodgy, because we're not going to lose. We won't lose big. Yeah, we won't lose big.
Like you said.
But
that's how cynical it is.
Yes.
Remember, they should want you to bet as much as possible, but then
we won't lose big on it, but he will lose big later.
By the way,
using our site, you know.
Do you know the other thing I hate about this exact topic as well is, as usual, Riot aren't total idiots. If you're a turbo normie, Monty, you're going to think everything we just said in the last 2 hours doesn't make sense because they banned all of Vietnam. Yes, Vietnam, that doesn't give a doesn't matter a fucking iota to Riot Global in America. Or they can come in and shit can that whole scene and burn it to the ground. Don't worry about that, because that gives the illusion that they are super harsh about this and that they'll violate you all if you do it. But actually, it's the other way around. That is such small fries. They were basically just like, look, we didn't give a fuck about anyone from Vietnam. Ban them all. Who gives a fuck? Because that actually then allows you to pretend you would do it in the West. Whereas, as I'm saying here, it's implied that in, like, especially in Valorant, everyone in tier 2 is getting these offers. In fact, a lot of people are taking them. So actually, that's sadly a classic example where you pretend you're taking care of the problem.
And still only the second
to not have to take care of the problem.
Americans have done to Vietnam.
Jesus. All right. I think we'll obviously be getting more into the match fixing on a future episode, so I don't want to slide too much into that, but it is important to kind of set up the stakes of the Riot
and it's all intertwined,
right,
but this stuff's all going to
this will be a nice little
anyway,
prelude episode to what we'll end up talking about when Sean comes on, because as I said, it's impossible for me to believe that this announcement and what he was talking about at the time, these two things are so unbelievably inconvenient for the Riot statement, Riot's business, and the narrative Riot is trying to push around why they're doing it now, which you're right, Christopher, they didn't answer that, did they? Right? You know, which is fine. Why now?
Just don't say it.
Scanning. No answer. But exactly. Yeah, exactly.
We'll circle back to that
later. The head of communications genocide. You know what I mean? So it's like, but the timing is unbelievably inconvenient because it's what it implies. It implies. You know, what Sean Gares was looking at, like, in terms of what he, and again, I've talked to him privately a lot about it, so I want to be careful. I don't, like, speak out of turn. But what Sean Gares was looking at was, like, you know, it was so out in the open and so ubiquitous, and might even have had ties to people that were, like, Riot adjacent and stuff, and, like, maybe it went further than, you know, he could have even believed or fathomed. All of that is unbelievably inconvenient to Riot Games going, we are bringing betting to all of you, and that includes Valorant. Want to get scalped with this runaway match fixing thing that we can't control? P.S. We're the company that's suitable to vet people. We can't even stop spotty fucking 18-year-olds from match fixing in our space. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so bad. So there's no way the treatment of Sean isn't linked to the inconvenient timing of his findings and this announcement. No way.
Sure.
No way.
So to conclude this episode, we'll take a few questions from Discord. If you are an LFN crew member and you're a subscriber, you too not only can experience the extreme orgasmic joy of supporting Last Free Nation, but you can ask questions. So I'll just do a couple for this one because we're already running pretty long.
Whatever.
And I got to go to bed at some point. But do you think well, I used to have that answer, Richard, and then I have children now that wake me
Whose
up,
decision was that, Monty? Yeah, you don't get no sympathy from me.
See, Monty's like everyone in this industry. He used to be the kid going, "Why can't I stay up?" And now he's the man vetting.
I also like how he's got his little ad read here as well. Got an element of the Frankie Ward about it. You're bringing up your kids, are you?
So you know what, guys? At least I'm not pulling the. Well, I have kids to feed, so I need to work for Saudi Arabia. That's the classic. As if there isn't any other way to feed children.
Let's not rule it out, Monty. Let's not rule it out.
I mean, also
that big mega bag might need to come one day.
Rule out working with Saudi Arabia, irrespective of whether or not it feeds your kids. So,
It's the thing, though, Richard. At least he has made a career of doing the on-camera heel turn. In some ways, that would be the ultimate Hollywood Hogan moment, wouldn't it? Like, and actually, Elephant would like to announce our new.
I just rip open my shirt.
Partner.
It's just MBS.
The new world on new world.
We could have done it.
We
had the money right at the start. We said no.
I find that unlikely. It's because it's on it. Like a lot of it is because I have kids that I don't want to do it because I don't want to set that example.
Well, you think
I think
like
it's unlikely.
from now, Dad, I've had an opportunity to be invested in by the Saudi Arabian state, and I'm saying no because of the stand shooter.
Here's the thing, Richard, is I have to die with my own thoughts, and I don't want my thoughts to be like that. So there you go. Okay. Do you think some people overrate Quentin Tarantino, or are some of his movies high art?
Ooh, I will just say I do think that he is one of the people who actually I'm a little bit tortured on, because on the one hand, I do think he is a great example of someone where he is obviously cribbing. I mean, openly, he'll just tell you he's doing homages to things and he's copying them, which to me, my take on that has always been, it really is a thing that every artist is influenced and steals certain things. So to me, it's more like if you're out in the open with it, I think the same with people like David Lynch. As long as you're out in the open with it, I don't have a problem with it. I think you're pretty good in that sense. But I'll put it this way, I'll just say it this way. I do think that like he maybe has more of a reputation as like a visionary, whereas to me I do see him more as like a film aficionado who does amazing.
He's like a collage artist.
Here's the thing, I think he's brilliant at that. I think he is really good. But I get what this person's meaning. Like I don't think he's sort of like a Stanley Kubrick super visionary type guy in that sense.
I also think that the later in his career, the less I like his movies. Like I really just can't stand Hateful. I really just don't like that movie. I really dislike that movie.
It's just all right. Here's the thing, I don't think I dislike any of his films, but I do think a lot. Here's the problem. I do think he has lived a long time off Pulp Fiction in the 90s working also. He's one of those people for me where, same with Scorsese, etc. Every movie they do, the kind of person who likes them is going to say it today. You know what I mean?
I just think Tarantino's like a vibe. I don't think he is a super skilled
totally disagree.
Artist.
What Tarantino does that no other working director currently does is it's the way he assimilates and recontextualizes essentially pop culture. I mean, this is a director that is completely. I mean,
it sounds like you're describing
in a way,
right?
So he is a white director that made a very successful blaxploitation film. He has made 2 westerns, one of which is an unbelievable tribute to the Django spaghetti western, which is a classic in the genre, literally resurrecting the theme tune for Django Unchained and putting Franco Nero in the movie as well. It couldn't be more of a loving homage. He has done
people don't know the guy in the movie who says like it's Django when it is the guy who played Django.
And like he made a bank heist movie with no heist. That could be done on stage is a really cool play. He obviously brought in the 90s, Pulp Fiction, obviously one of the most profoundly influential films of the 90s. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, especially the structure and all that shit.
It gave everybody permission again to play with timeline, narrative structure. I mean, look, I'm not saying he was the only one to do it, because obviously you had Nolan did The Following in, when was that? Was that 95, 96?
Not yet or something, I think.
Oh, was it a bit later? But I
it's
mean,
not yet.
obviously, Memento comes
Maybe a
out
little
of
bit,
that,
yeah.
right? I mean, it's the the ultimate movie that runs backwards.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, look, for me, not to just list all of his movies one at a time. First of all, when your worst movie is Death Proof, which was a tribute again to the midnight movies he grew up with, the Grindhouse movies, it's still
Also
an
a fun
unbelievable fun watch. And I
Definitely a fun
actually
watch.
think, because a lot of people say, oh, he dines out on his 90s. I was there when people were insulting Jackie Brown and saying Jackie Brown isn't a good film, and Jackie Brown holds up. Jackie Brown holds up unbelievably.
I like
well.
that one.
Because everyone wanted Pulp
did get
Fiction
panned
again.
for sure,
and this is the thing. He rarely dips his toe into the same lake twice. And I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think it's a masterpiece. I think it is a masterpiece. I think it's a tribute to cinema, the Hollywood system, those outside of the Hollywood system, as an allegory for movies, as wish fulfillment, and an escape from reality. I think it is an incredibly profound film that doesn't get its flowers. People like it, but I don't.
You do have to be a mega movie nerd to know what all the references are, though. That's the problem. I even saw a lot where I didn't realise that was what he was aping or like recreating a scene. Like there's a lot.
So
there's
it's
a lot
like
in there. But
if you think of like another director that's kind of comparable, it's probably Scorsese in the sense that what he does is he does it with what Tarantino does with cinema references, Scorsese does with music. There's probably no better person. Like he knows how to fit a Rolling Stones song into a scene and it works, and the song is actually saying something about what's happening in the scene. He's the best at doing that there's ever been, actually. And he does have a huge say in like the soundtracks for his films. So I mean, look, I think Tarantino is a visionary artist. I think he has made it okay to revere shitty movies. Like, not shitty, that's like reductive, but what I mean by that is, I mean, like the budget movies that he grew up with, the blaxploitation movies that he used to watch, the Pulp Fiction. Exactly.
Yeah.
He has took something that is trash and polished it to treasure, and gives everybody who watches his films permission to do the same thing. I think he's a very rare director, and I'm going to be devastated if he remains true to his word that his next film will be his last. I think it'll be a great loss to the world of cinema, and I think probably in 50 years, after he's passed away, I think he'll be one of those artists that's like cherished a little bit more posthumously, because unfortunately the baggage of Tarantino is Tarantino. He's a very braggadocious guy, and I think he rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but his film knowledge is like nothing I've ever seen. Like you listen to a lot of directors, he can tell you
it's probably the most interesting person.
I agree with that. I mean, I'm trying to think of anyone even remotely comparable. Probably the only person who talks about movies the way Tarantino did is William Friedkin. If you ever listen to William Friedkin riff on his favorite movies, the only difference is Friedkin's telling you why Fellini is great. Tarantino will tell you why Truck Turner was the perfect vehicle for Isaac Hayes.
Right?
That's the only difference. So I love Tarantino. I really do. I adore him, and I don't think he's made a bad movie. And I don't care what people say about Death Proof. I went to see the Grindhouse. I was one of the few people to see Grindhouse in the 1 week it was out in UK cinemas. Give me Tarantino. Give me Robert Rodriguez. I'm there. I'm there all day. So.
All right, well, we'll do one more question. Do any of you like recent rap music, like 2015?
It's interesting that they're framing that as recent, I would say. Because
I think they just mean
the last 10 years.
As in not to just be all the 90s shit that everyone else says. And stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. I'll go first, just because I'm not a very big rap aficionado. Okay. But most of the music I would listen to is from like the 90s or early 2000s. I will say the one contemporary artist that I listen to is Run the Jewels, but that's basically it.
I would just say this, like, I'm not someone who particularly, especially within that sphere, follows like the charts. I have no idea what's big and what the cult. So for example, I don't know like almost any of the mumble rap and all that shit, but there are people where I always say in hip hop, personally, I go based on the producer. So if I find something like some like Freddie Gibbs album that's like produced by like Madlib or something, yeah, I'm definitely gonna listen. If there's somebody, if Alchemist does something, they're really good producers, I'll listen to most of the stuff they do. The problem is though, a lot of these people do loads of albums. So I do listen to modern stuff, but I'm not like some super duper up to date on it. And also, that's just never been my style with any media. I don't don't really sort of like, I'm not really the person who's like tracking a new movie that's coming out and what the casting is. And when I find out like a year later when I get around to watching it. So I'm not really tethered to time, but definitely I do. In the last 10 years, yes, I've listened to a lot of rap music, but it's probably going to be more like I say, like a Freddie Gibbs album or Run the Jewels or something like that, or MF Doom or something. It's not really going to be like, I don't know, what's even big. Kendrick Lamar. I'm not really a big fan of.
So I love Freddie Gibbs. I was so glad he got his blow up eventually when he did. I mean, shit, man, he's even done a Joe Rogan episode. It's straight fire if anyone's fucking seen it. Kind of he really. What's interesting about Freddie Gibbs is he was like his early stuff. If you've ever listened to it, it's very street thug oriented, very fucking hard, and tells a lot of stories about streets, drug dealing, the game, whatever you want to call it. And then what was interesting was with the album he did with Madlib, which actually technically does fall out of the timeline, because I think it was 2014, Pinata. He got a lot of critical acclaim for the musicality of it, and not just the kind of what he was saying hip hop. I think Pinata and Alfredo are two like insane. Mega hip hop albums. I fucking love Freddie Gibbs. But I mean, if you want to talk about like just other people that were kind of coming up. By the way, I obviously do like Kendrick, and I do listen to Kendrick, but I think he's like too obvious a pick. Like, he's like one of the big, if not the biggest name musically in the world. You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like. Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Well,
yeah.
Taylor Swift is bigger, but
exactly
yes.
I mean, he did do the halftime Super Bowl show. That's pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, he's the biggest rapper, I think, right now,
tough
for
one,
sure.
because it's like, honestly, a lot of the people that like evolved as artists across 2015 to 2025 in the last 10 years, it's not that they were just magically dropped in. They were there before. They were just maybe doing other things, or their music wasn't as good, or there was a collaboration that really helped set them up and blow them up. It is a tough one. I mean, I'll say this: things that make me sad that are like tangentially related to this question. I'm devastated that we didn't get to see where Juice WRLD went as an artist. I think he would have been something special. If Eminem is putting you on songs and saying you're going to be the next big thing, I generally think the people in that entourage have got a good sense musically about where people are going to go. I was devastated when Mac Miller died, because I thought he was evolving into a really interesting artist. He'd started out as some sort of like stupid frat boy hip hop guy, and all of a sudden he was making these like really profound soulful songs. It's not hip hop in a way. It's definitely closer to soul probably, but I mean, obviously his lyrics would rhyme, so it was a very interesting kind of cat, and I was like super sad Mac Miller passed. So I mean, all of these things. I'm just a fan of fucking music, dude. As cliched as that fucking sounds, like I listen to all sorts of shit, and I mean, I came up with grime. Grime's dead now; it just doesn't exist. But Skepta's still going. So but yeah, I just listen to music, dude. Like, genre is kind of a bit stupid, isn't it? Like if someone slaps, it slaps.
Well, there you go, guys. There you go. All right, we'll leave it there for today. And as usual, we'll see you next time. Esports Delenda Est.